candidates. And so, first of all, the candidate.
We are traders. It's in our DNA to make bold decisions when every.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Tulieni. Raila Odinga Conman from Opoda is about to take the stage for the Mjadala, which is about to happen live from Addis Ababa. Guys, are you in this? All right. Let's tune in our blood clotting. Anyway, this should be interesting. Karibuni sana. Please, if you're getting in, please go ahead and subscribe, share, like, comment. We're about to get to this. It's about to go down. All right, let's go. Let me take you to the thingy. All right, tune in.
Candidates. Now that you understand why you're here and the rules have been set before you, also to mention that the questions you will be hearing tonight, the questions our esteemed candidates will be receiving, are questions created by a completely independent panel in order to promote peace, fairness, and transparency among us all. Ladies and gentlemen, with that established, allow me to welcome to the stage a host of our to show the significance of the election process of the African Union. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador Conjit.
Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now very pleased to call on Her Excellency Ambassador Conjit, Senior Georges. She is going to give us her opening remarks.
Excellencies, candidates for the post of chairmanship of the African Commission, Excellencies, ambassadors, fellow Africans, ladies and gentlemen. Heartfelt greetings to our live audience here at the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa and all African citizens watching this debate. On behalf of the panel of eminent Africans, it is an honor and a pleasure to welcome you all to the 2024 Mujadala Africa Leadership Debate. Tonight's event represents a critical milestone in our collective journey towards achieving the Africa we want under Agenda 2063. I must say, now more than ever before, we need to be where we are today. The trajectory of going out of colonial legacy to move to the Africa we want stands as. We understand that our dreams and aspirations will not take us anywhere unless we come together. I had the immense pleasure as a young cadet of having seen the birth of the organization, the OAU, the Organization of African Unity, and followed its transformation to the African Union. I have seen their highs and lows. But one thing is for sure. If the African Union had not existed, we would have had to invent it. We have a long way to go to reach the Africa we want by 2063. The African Union Commission, our only vehicle to take us to our destination, has to be strong and fit for the purpose. We have to face together our current and future challenges, narrow inequalities, build more just and inclusive societies, resolve conflicts, in short, provide to our citizens what they are expecting. It has become more and more clear that the African Union has a rightful place on the global stage. It has become a partner that can't be easily pushed aside. We are claiming our place where decisions are made regarding our continent. Africa is coming out of age. This evening, the three candidates to the post of the chairpersonship of the African Union Commission are going to participate in a debate. I regret that the fact that our continent couldn't also have a female candidate and place the African Union Commission on the right side of history. This is a serious homework we have to take into consideration. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the greatest honor and privilege to thank the general public for participating and for their interest in this process by sending questions. I would also like them to know that the concerns expressed by the public are taken care of in the questions. And now, ladies and gentlemen and excellencies, I have the duty and the honor to hand over to the moderators the questions sealed envelope. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci infiniment.
Thank you very much, Excellency Conjit Senior Georges. Dear participants, what we're going to see here, what Madam Conjit Senior Georges is going to do now is to actually give to us an envelope that contains all the questions that we are going to ask. That is, either Anita or me will be asking the potential candidates who are vying for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Fatima has outlined, Her Excellency the Ambassador has handed over the questions that have been curated by an independent panel. As we mentioned, there will be 4 rounds, and here in my hand we have 4 envelopes sealed, and these envelopes will only be opened at the forefront of each one of the rounds.
Merci infiniment.
Thank you very much, Anita. Ladies and gentlemen, at the moment, we are going to introduce the various candidates vying for the position of chairperson of the African Union Commission. His Excellency Mahamadou Ali Yusuf, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Djibouti. Your Excellency, His Excellency Mr. Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister of Kenya, and the third candidate will be His Excellency Richard James, the former Foreign Minister of Madagascar.
Pride and honor that we invite our 3 esteemed candidates to now take their position on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor of welcoming
His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Foreign Affairs Minister, Djibouti. Former Prime Minister, Kenya, and we have His Excellency Richard J. Randiamandrato, who is from Madagascar. Ladies and gentlemen, with humility, I ask that you give them another round of applause. These are our candidates for the chairperson position of the African Union.
Messieurs, bonsoir.
Good evening, honorable gentlemen. You're welcome to this event, and you're all live on this debate. Millions of Africans are watching the Njandala debate. And like we said earlier on, each of you would have 5 minutes to introduce yourself. So we are going to start with you, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf of Djibouti. Honorable Raila Odinga, Honorable Richard James, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen, African citizens, good evening. My name is Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. I am 59 years old. I'm married with 8 children. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Djibouti for the past 20 years. And I am standing before you this evening to give you a brief presentation of my vision for Africa's future. Africa is at a crossroads of its evolution. Of course, it is actually lagging behind other continents in terms of peace and security, integration, and socioeconomic development. But Africa is moving forward. Africa is getting itself organized, and Africa is doing its level best to be on the international stage. The Africa that we want, an integrated, peaceful, and prosperous one, is first the choice of our people before the choice of its leaders. The founding fathers of the OAU in 1963 and to our leaders today who actually established the African Union more than 20 years, all the way down to the average citizen, we are trying to consolidate our diversity and to cement the unity of the continent. As we adopted Agenda 2063 and also the five plans, the African Union actually has a roadmap to achieve its goals. And the African Union is supposed to coordinate and also to implement the decisions of the policy organs. And if I am elected as chairperson of the commission, I am going to make sure that we work together and we actually have to go beyond the 37% of the work that we have done so far. In terms of peace and security and early warnings, through the continental early warning system, we are going to strengthen the Peace and Security Council, which has to be more proactive, and the member states will also have to be responsible. The panel of the wilds would be given the means to work to continue its mediation work. And I will do my level best to make sure that resources are mobilized to make the African standby force operational. And we can also use the African Peace Fund. And with the relevant bodies, I am going to continue or to carry out the reforms which have not been implemented today. And I'm going to diversify our financing, and I will do my best to make sure that African Union has its own financing sources. And I'm also going to boost intra-African trade, which should go beyond 80%. And I will bring down all the non-tariff barriers and facilitate the free movement of goods and persons across the continent. The place of Africa on the international stage will be one of my, and I'm going to be the voice to our women, of course, and the diaspora too, through knowledge, technology, in agriculture, in industry, and in the service sector. The Africa that we want, ladies and gentlemen, is an Africa of peace, integration, and prosperity. And this has to go through the political will and the solidarity of the African people. And thanks to the support of our people. And so as I stand in front of you today and in front of all the millions of Africa, I want to tell you that if I'm given the chance of being the chairperson of this commission, I will do my best to make sure that our continent shines on the international stage. I thank you.
Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite His Excellency Raila Odinga to share his opening remarks. Your Excellency, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Your Excellency Ambassador Konjit, my co-panelist here, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, and His Excellency Mr. Richard, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Africa. Africa, hamjambo, bonsoir. Salam alaikum rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuh. Boa noite. I am delighted to have opportunity today to stand before you as the son of Africa. I was born in Kenya, but I'm told that my grandparents came from the Sudan. I am a father of 4, a grandfather of 5, and a husband of 1 that I know of. I am an engineer by profession, and I have been an academic. I have also been a public servant. I've been a member of parliament. I've also been a prime minister and also leader of opposition. In those capacities, I've tried to do my best, and I've gained a lot of experience in terms of management of public affairs. I stand here as an Pan-Africanist and an Afro-optimist. 2 months ago, that is on the 21st of October, this year we were here in Addis Ababa. We had been invited as members of the families of the founding fathers of the African Union to come and witness the reopening of the Africa Hall. That's the hall where the OAU was launched in 1963. And we're happy to be here. Years since the launch of the Organization of African Unity. And at that time, if you read the speeches of the founding fathers on that day, they were very passionate, and all of them talked about African unity. Where there was a difference was, when do we achieve this unity? There are those who, under the school of thought, that the unity now. There are those who said, no, we need to be gradual in this. Let us first build the building blocks, the regional unions, which will eventually translate into formation of the African Union as a whole. But now we have they came up 50 years later with Vision 2063, which now hopes to get Africa united, one union government by 2030, and move on to attain the vision, the wishes of the founding fathers of Africa. I say that I have the experience. I've been part of this movement for changing the continent. You know that some achievements have been made. Africa is now completely liberated, but there's still work to do. And I believe that I have what it takes to get us where we want to do. In the field of education, in the field of health, in the field of value addition to the abundant wealth that we have on the continent, in the field of trade, inter-African trade. I have acted as the African Union High Representative on Infrastructure. And in this, I know that we have very comprehensive programs in PIDA, Program for Infrastructure Development of the Continent. What remains is action. And what I want to promise the African people is that I am going to lead from the front to ensure that we achieve the visions of the founding fathers of our continent. I thank you.
Merci infiniment.
Thank you very much, the candidate from Kenya, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. Now we're going to listen to His Excellency Randra Mandrato from Madagascar.
Excellence,
Excellencies, distinguished guests to this very important event for the African people. As you can see, we are 3 candidates, not 2 candidates, like you see on the social media. And we are standing in front of you today to convince you of how serious we are and how seriously we're going to work towards the African Union involvement. So who am I? I am one out of 1.2 billion Africans. Just like you, I started from very humble beginnings, from the very beginning. I was a young consultant. I was a researcher in microfinance sector, and I traveled across many African capitals, about 41 countries in the year 1989. Just like you, it was difficult for me to find a job, but I did find a job which was at the level of my capacity. And just like you, I actually built my career based on my conviction that each African citizen can actually survive. And just like you, today, I am standing before you because I believe that I have the confidence and the trust of the president of Madagascar, and I am proud. I am proud that I was actually supported by my country. Just like you, I've actually come a long way, and I have actually gotten to this level where I have the trust of my government. I was Minister of the Economy in my country because that is my specialty. I was also Minister of Foreign Affairs, and I'm here today standing before you to talk about Africa. Africa is actually the second dynamic economic region in the world, and is actually making progress. And things are changing in our favor. And recently, I read about the funding of the African Development Bank, funding several projects in Africa. And this is quite promising for the continent. The World Bank also has increased its envelope, funding 75 countries, 75 less developed countries. And I also think that we have funding for small states. Small state, that's not a pejorative. That's not a pejorative term, but there is an idea that I want to share with you. Africa is moving, is first of all the states that are actually seeing a 3.4% economic growth per year, but I think we should do more than that. And then we have our own house. Here we are, the African Union, which is our home. And what I have noticed is that there is an Africa which is actually moving forward, which is a dynamic Africa, and then there is the African Union, which doesn't really have the capacity for it to move forward. I am here before you today because I think it is indispensable and it is a must that those who want to have the quality, competence, conviction, of course, today, I think that I have those qualities and I hope that I've been able to convince you. Thank you very much.
Very much, Your Excellency Richard Randyamandrato from Madagascar. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this officially brings us to the beginning of our debate, where we move into the first round of questions. But before then, allow us to reiterate the rules and the guidelines for you, our esteemed candidates. You each have 4 minutes to answer the questions that will be posed, and you will each answer the absolute same question. Your Excellencies, with respect and humility, if you surpass the 4-minute mark, myself or my colleague will have to interrupt your response. And this eventually brings us to this moment, ladies and gentlemen, where my colleague and I will open the envelope for the first round of questions.
Thank you, Anita. Merci.
Thank you very much, Anita, and thank you very much to our candidates who have just introduced themselves to yourselves, members of this public. As my sister has just reminded us, we are going to open, ladies and gentlemen, the first round of questions. We are going to remind all of us that the questions were drafted in English and in French. They were drafted by an independent panel. The envelopes were handed over to us a few minutes ago by Her Excellency Madam Conjit Sine Georges. And immediately with Anita, we're going to select an envelope. Anita, you're going to ask the first question.
Esteemed candidates, your question in English, and after that my colleague here, Fatima, will translate in French. Translating Africa's natural wealth into continental prosperity. Africa has everything it needs to feed her people, educate her children, and take care of her health. Yet, the reality defies this. How will you turn the continent's resource wealth into tangible benefits, reducing debt, ensuring sustainable financing for the African Union, and enabling Africa to control its destiny economically? Also, how will you ensure that the African Continental Free Trade Area achieves its goals?
Excellences, Messieurs les candidats,
Candidates, the question in French.
a tout ce dont elle a besoin pour nourrir sa population, éduquer ses enfants et prendre soin de leur santé. Mais la réalité défie cela. Comment allez-vous transformer la richesse en ressources du continent en avantages tangibles, réduire la dette, assurer un financement durable pour l'Union africaine et permettre à l'Afrique de contrôler son destin économique? En outre, comment allez-vous garantir que la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine atteigne? Excellence, vous avez 4 minutes pour y répondre.
This question talks about the hopes. Then the first hope is that is contained in Agenda 2063, and we are going to just try and respond to this question. Perhaps not answer it completely, because you can't answer it in just 4 minutes. You can't show academically what it is that we can do in order to respond to this aspiration. So aspiration 1 of Agenda 2063 is as follows: prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Your question is huge. How can a chairperson of the African Union Commission, with a very clear terms of responsibility, about 26 of those, that first of all, he or she has to demonstrate leadership characteristics, has to have administrative capacity, has to know protocol, has to be diplomatic. How can such a chairperson respond? Emphasize the importance of continuing to develop the economy at the continental level. You did mention our joint initiative about developing trade through, in theory, liberalization of trade, liberalization of the circulation of persons throughout our continent. In theory, I say, trade can effectively become a source of economic dynamism. I think I understand that we're at about 12.6% of commercial trade between African countries. This is very low. For a continent such as Europe, a continent such as America, they go up to more than 50%. So what we need to do is to continue to continue with the efforts that we're doing. There's already a secretariat at the ICFTA. A secretariat, the ICFTA is just a geographical. It's zone. It is the geographical zone. We haven't yet attained this free circulation of trade, but if we manage to ensure that a free trade can happen and can happen very quickly, it is very possible that we shall triple our performance in economic development. I am a farmer. I have a fish and chickens, and at a very small scale. And I support young farmers. And it's very difficult to pretend that one can have a good quality and one can sell the products to the neighbors. People are not able to really exhaust what is available on the market. But free trade is that. It is to learn how to master capital virtues, capitalism. Where do you find money and what am I going to do to find the money? I think we need to start modestly. We need to start at the level of the local development so that slowly by slowly with support from the government and of course the support of the African Union, we shall then at the end ensure that all of the citizens, young, medium-aged, and especially women can have the opportunity of participating in this large continental market. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
You, Excellency Raila Odinga, first for your answer. 4 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Africa is, of course, the least developed continent by comparison. Look at economic statistics. But this is because there are historical reasons why Africa is where it is today. And we will say that Africa does not need to remain here. We need to develop Africa. There are several factors which work against Africa. For example, the international financial infrastructure has worked very much against Africa, because African countries have been made to borrow money at a very high rate of interest compared to other countries of the same status as the African countries. So we need to address the issue of rearranging the international financial infrastructure. That is, I think, one of the major starting points. Now, Africa is the richest continent on the planet Earth in terms of raw materials. But it's a paradox that Africa also is the poorest in terms of living conditions. You say that we need not remain for perpetually the source of raw materials for industrial west or east, that we need to do value addition to raw materials which are coming out of Africa before we export them. Then we've also said that Africa needs to trade more with itself. There's big potential. The African Development Bank today says that 7 out of the 20 fastest growing economies in this year are going to be African countries. They're much higher than Europe. We're only competing with Asia. So it is important that Africa enhances the trade with itself. The inter-African trade today stands at just mere 15%. Now we have the African Free Trade Area organization that was launched now 3 years ago, but not much has been achieved. Some of the reasons are issues that are actually solvable. The non-tariff barriers to trade that have been imposed by respective African countries. Things like standards, which are different from one country to the other country, making it difficult for goods to move freely across the borders. Then modalities of payment. And then it's the other issue of infrastructure. I worked for 5 years as the African Union High Representative on Infrastructure Development. And here is another problem, because goods cannot move freely because of lack of adequate infrastructure within the continent. Kenya exported tea to Ghana, and it took 3 months of tea to travel from Kenya to Ghana. We have major infrastructure projects, the high-speed continental railway, the inter-African highways, Cape to Cairo, Tunis to Cape, Dakar to Djibouti, Dakar, Lagos, Mombasa, and so on and so forth. All these need to be developed. Energy is another factor. Energy is too expensive, but we can reduce the cost of energy and go green in the continent.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Candidate from Kenya est à présent, mesdames et messieurs.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the response from His Excellency, the candidate from Djibouti. When you talk about the riches of Africa, we often think about natural resources, and the riches of Africa begins with its people. We have 1.4 billion inhabitants on the continent, and more than 60% of this population is young between 0 and 25 years. The first wealth of this continent is in its people. We must have the capacity to think about how we can ensure that these people, this population, can benefit not only from the existing wealth, but also add value to that wealth. How can we go about that? Through universal education, quality education in our countries. We should have the capacity of offering our citizens a free education from the primary to the university levels, and ensure that this education is spread in all of the regions of our continent and of our country. We must remove the obstacles to education. The feminine population represents 50.2%. There are still cultural obstacles. There are obstacles to the education of girls. So we must concentrate on valorizing our human resources. And then we have fertile land. What are we doing with this fertile land? We are still in many countries using very archaic agriculture. It is time to begin to develop an agriculture that I would call modern. It does exist in many countries. Look, for example, at a country such as Rwanda. Tea and coffee are actually, there's value added locally. Countries say, now, these raw products that we sell without adding value, we must be able to add value locally so that we can increase the wealth and also create employment. The transformation of agricultural products is a priority. So today, agriculture in many countries uses biotechnology. It uses the drip system. It uses seeds that are modified, that are quality seeds. Ethiopia uses quality seeds in order to be able to produce maize. Today, Ethiopia produces maize and wheat because of these seeds that are quality seeds. It is important to think about transforming agricultural product in place that will ensure that the people can get out of food insecurity, ensure that there is a specialized agriculture there has to be areas of specialized agriculture, and that, I would say, is one of the steps that will lead to ensuring that this water can be at the benefit of the population. And then we come to natural resources. I acknowledge the work by President Museveni. He has said that he will not export petrol or gas as long as there will not be a refinery in Uganda. These are the examples from African leaders who take the destiny of their people in hand, so that they can actually have a value added locally. Now, trade, everybody knows that it is through trade that development happens. Look at China. China and all over the Chinese economy really target production and exportation. When you add value to our products, we can become exporters. Let me talk about tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. That is not the problem. I think that the situation must be to, first of all, protect our wealth by transforming them locally. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Of round one, where I'm happy to announce we have a 5-minute break. And after this break, we come to round two. You have been tuned in to us here from the African Union headquarters here in Addis Ababa, and we are bringing to you Njadala Africa Leadership Debate 2024 with our 3 esteemed candidates vying for the position of chairperson of the African Union.
Merci infiniment, cher candidat.
Thank you very much, candidates, for having answered to the first question of the first round. Ladies and gentlemen, there's still 3 rounds to go in which you will all participate. And we're going to take a break of 5 minutes. We'll come back immediately after. Thank you very, very much for having listened to us. Thank you.
All right. Real quick. Guys, can you hear me? You see the difference in intellect here. This is what I was talking about before we get to the second part of the debate as we take the break. Now, I know a lot of Raila fans are saying, hey, Raila he hasn't mumbled, he hasn't, well, he was mumbling a little bit. He hasn't stumbled, which is fine. He gave the usual answers that they get, because the question was, how can you transform the African natural resources into wealth, which can help Africa?
A man of the people.
Let me just...
a mobilizer par excellence.
Hold on for a minute. So I like the answer that the Djibouti guy gave, because Raila and the other guy is more of banking. He was talking about, I've been working with small banks, and I've done this and that. Maybe the interpreter of that first, the guy on the far right, did not do him justice. I didn't, he wasn't really, it sounded like he wasn't saying that much. But let me just concentrate on the Djibouti and Raila. Raila, when it was asked, he said something which, okay, we might agree with, which he said the international banks, they give Africa these loans that are in, terms that are not favorable compared to other nations. So that is kind of a stumbling block, which is true. I'll give him that. Then Raila told us, his infrastructure. Okay, that is the strongest suit that he has, because he was Faki made him the biggest infrastructural head of Africa few years back. Okay, so he mentioned that infrastructure will help Africa develop. Then his third point was, intra-African trade, which is fine. Those are basic generic answers you could give. But when it came to the guy from Djibouti, there was a stark difference. He started that Africa's wealth starts with its people. Oh my freaking goodness. How could you miss this? This is there in your face. You cannot talk about the wealth of the people if you don't talk about the people themselves. What is the condition of the people? Do they need education? Because you can have all the wealth in the world, but if you don't have education, what does that help you with? You will not know. We'll be stuck where we're at. So I like that answer by the Djibouti candidate when he started. You have to start with the people. The majority of Africans, the demographic that's the most populous is the young people. Let's invest in them. Get them education. Then number 2. He mentioned land. Oh my goodness. How can you miss this? We have land. Okay. We need to make sure that we make good of our land. Then he said something, the third one. Now that we invest in our people, we take care of our land. Number 3, we protect our wealth. That's why he mentioned the tariff issue is not an issue if we don't protect our own wealth. Okay. You go to You go to US, okay? They have their land, they have their whatever. Why are they able to impose tariffs on goods that come from China or whatever other countries? Because they value what they have. So you have to pay an arm and leg to bring in their country. The same thing. If we have a country, if you have a country that protects its wealth, you are able to impose tariffs. Guys, this man, that's what I'm saying. I know Raila hasn't fumbled the bag. Let me just say that he hasn't been terrible, to be fair to him. He, say the generic whatever, but the Djibouti guy really brought the difference. Like, he kind of made, if you juxtapose what Raila said and what the Djibouti guy was more practical and was more surgical than the other candidates. Again, to be fair to the other candidate, I think the interpreter did not do him justice, so I can't really say that he messed up, because I think he was just talking about his argument was more evolved around banking, small scale banking, and he says the same thing that Raila said about intra-African trade. Okay, so I really like what Djibouti. I know, because a lot of people say, a lot of Kenyans are supporting the Djibouti guy, but to be fair, the Djibouti guy said something that really was, I think it was the best answer. You first start with the people. If you want to revolutionize the economic situation of a continent, you have to start with the indigenous people. How can you help? How can you empower them? Don't tell us about the international banks and how they are misusing us. You empower the people. Once you empower the people, you take good care of this land and what this land produces, and you protect it. Simple, clear, doable answers that Raila and the other guy from Mauritania or Mauritius or Seychelles, whatever the case is, did not give. Simple, without starting to blame external factors that affect Africa. We know what ails Africa, but somebody is giving us the basic stuff that you need to do. Very surgical, very doable, very pragmatic, practical, doable steps. That's why I say in this round one, I think the Djibouti guy did very well, followed by Raila. I don't know what the other guy said. But anyway, let's go back. Part 2 is here. Let's go back to the debate. Do not fail. Please go ahead and do that.
Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Djibouti, His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister of Kenya, and finally, Honorable Richard Randriamandrato, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Madagascar. And we are coming right back to the second round of questions. Anita.
About to start the round 2 of our debate here, Mjadala Africa Leadership Debate, where we are witnessing and listening to 3 esteemed candidates, each vying for the chairperson position of the African Union Commission. Earlier on, we heard their thoughts on issues such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, and now we're moving into the second round. And if you're just joining us, we're beaming live from the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa to be specific.
Et pour ouvrir le deuxième round, mesdames.
To start the second round, ladies and gentlemen, honorable participants, we're going to open a second envelope so that we can see the question that was prepared by an independent panel.
I'm Marie, I'm the brand. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the best.
Is this. In spite of the hopes of the African Union to silence the arms between now and 2030, the conflicts continue to take place. How would you go about proposing African solutions so that you can ensure that there is a prevention, management, and a resolution that are effective and sustainable of conflicts? And how would you accelerate the advance of Africa towards a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council? That's your question.
Whose aspiration to silence guns by 2020, conflicts persist. How will you foster African solutions to ensure effective and durable conflict prevention, management, and resolution? And how do you plan to accelerate Africa's push for a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council? Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed candidates, the first to answer this round of questions will be His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. You have 4 minutes, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Well, silencing the guns on the continent. As you know that in 2013, the EU met and passed a resolution to silence the guns by 2020. We are today in 2024, and the guns are not silent. They're very loud, roaring all over the continent. You need to address the causative factors of these conflicts. There are some which are conflict caused by poverty or deprivation. Some of them by conflict within the society, again, things like ethnicity and so on. Some of them are externally influenced or promoted. Some are religious and so on. So there's not a common factor. But what you need to do is to address the causative factors which could translate into these conflicts throughout the continent. And this is what I will do myself. First, as you know that all African countries are not at the same levels of development. Those which are more developed, like for example, in terms of governance, there are some areas where you have got exclusions of people, and as a result of this, there's some people move to use other means. We need to find a way of creating an environment or dialogue within our societies so that we can be able to prevent these differences, conflict ending up into violent confrontation between the various groups. We don't need to put a time span, but I'm sure that it is possible to end these conflicts and stop the guns by 2035, in my view. The other one is the issue of Africa's representation on the Security Council. This is something that's been long overdue. As you know, that the UN was formed at a time when most parts of Africa were colonies. And that's why the UN structure as today does not deal with the realities of the world today. And the situation where you have 5 countries sitting in the Security Council with veto powers, and Africa is not represented, a continent with 1.4 billion people, is not tenable and it's not accessible. And that's why I'm not going to talk about Africa's representation, but we're going to insist that Africa must get 2 permanent seats in the UN Security Council. This is only fair, because we are a continent of 55 sovereign nations. We cannot be excluded when Europe has got 3 permanent representations on the Security Council. Permanent representation with the veto powers is a must for Africa. And this I'm going to insist when I'm elected. If the heads of state of Africa sees fit that I should lead this, I will work together with all the leadership of the continent to ensure that the continent gets a fair treatment on the international scene.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Candidate from Kenya. Et maintenant, mesdames et messieurs.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the response from His Excellency, the candidate from Djibouti, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Silencing the guns is a flagship program, one of the 15 that our leaders have endorsed years ago. And then they put a number of mechanisms and structure around this flagship program so that peace becomes a reality on our continent. The first structure is the African Peace and Security Architecture. And then we have the strategy that we all know, silencing the guns. And to support this strategy, the African Union put in place a number of mechanisms. One of them is the Peace and Security Council. The other one is the Committee of Elders, the Committee of Chief of Staff. We have the Peace Fund, and we can rely on every kind of mechanism. So why is peace is not, let's say, a reality on the ground on our continent? There are a number of reasons. One of them is the political will of countries. We have to be outspoken and frank. We make decisions at the Peace and Security Council level. These decisions are not implemented. Our Peace and Security Council is not proactive. It is reacting to crises when they occur and happen. This has to change. And I'm sending a message to our member countries saying this has to change. The number two problem that we have to face is our standby forces. We have them on the papers. Of course, sometimes we can mobilize them, but they lack resources. We are still relying on foreign partnership for our resources. Let me give you an example. AMISOM. Since 2007, ATMIS has been financed by the European Union and the United Nations, up to 2.7 billion euros. Now, financial resources are critical. Why should we have the money so that we can operate on crisis ground on the continent? Because without money, we cannot deploy our standby forces. Without money, even the committee of mediators cannot go and discuss with the stakeholders. They sometimes wait for the tickets, the per diems, days and days and days. It's very critical that the Peace Fund, in which we have $400 million, that the Commission and the PRC, get to the compromise situation where that money could be used for peace on the continent. So far, only the interest of the 400 million are used. And I'm really shameful when I say, DRC have been given 1 million for peace, issues through this fund. And they have given to, I don't know, another country 1.5 million. It has to change. We need the authority from the member countries so that we can use this money, the $400 million, to keep peace on our continent. There are so many other bottlenecks that needs to be handled very quickly. But money is one of them. The Peace and Security Council mission is the second problem. And then we have a third one. This one also has to be underlined very, very seriously. When a crisis happens, I give you the example of Somalia. I've been around for some time. I've been dealing with this problem for many years. When there is no unity of purpose between the countries around this country, neighboring countries, this country will never stand on its feet. That's what we are experiencing today in the Sudan. Hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, millions displaced. Neighboring countries are still fighting on the Sudan, and the African Union and IGAD are watching.
Sorry, sir, your time is up.
Okay, sorry, because I can talk hours about this issue.
No problem, sir. Thank you so much for your contribution. And ladies and gentlemen, as a reminder, especially to our esteemed candidates, if you go beyond the time, I will be forced to interrupt, and I don't want to do that, so please forgive me. May we kindly have our last candidate, His Excellency Rande Mandrato, to respond to the question. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Faire taire les armes.
Silencing the guns and issues relating to peace and security in general actually are due to so many things. It's not like turning on a switch or switching it off, not on and off a switch. No, there are several factors that have to be taken into consideration. And that is the reason why the African continent and the African Union have been challenges to silence the guns. But we have to resolve our conflicts peacefully. And this is one of the principles of the African Union, just like the principle of non-interference. So this is an aspect that we all have to actually look at. When exactly do we talk about non-interference, non-indifference, and how do we use them to silence the guns? But that is the situation in which we find ourselves. in. And if I am chosen by the heads of states and government as chairperson of the commission, I will make sure that the African Union Commission would actually work towards resolving our conflicts peacefully, because we have that in the Constitutive Act of Africa, of the African Union. So we have the Peace and Security Council, we have the peace architecture of the African Union, but we also have the United Nations Security Council. And then bilaterally, we've got efforts that are underway, and we've heard about progress in some areas, in some regions where we have long-standing conflicts. And then we also have the opportunity of ensuring that there is solidarity with the United Nations, the African Union and the United Nations. This is a framework that could actually enable us to sit down with the international community and talk about crisis in Africa. Why should we only talk about the crisis in Ukraine? Why not talk about the crisis in Sudan and crisis in other African countries? So we are talking about financing peace missions, but there is also a program that actually wants to see the program of the United Nations, that is the SDGs, aligned with Agenda 2063. And then we also have the 10-year plan of our public institutions in charge of working at a national level, but we are talking about the justice systems in our respective countries. Now, concerning the 2 permanent seats on the United Nations Security Council, I think here in Africa, we all know the importance and the urgency of having these 2 seats. And we have to seize this opportunity because we are actually at the end of 2024. And so we have to act very fast in 2025. And this should be the mantra of the African Union in 2025. And so, of course, we have to make sure that we can actually speak with one voice on the choice of who will represent Africa on the United Nations Security Council. It's not going to be easy. It will be up to the heads of states to decide who will be the continent's representative. And now we'll conclude to say that, like this morning, I read in the newspapers the problem between Ethiopia and Somalia, and this was being resolved by Turkey. The mediator is Turkey. Let us be responsible. Let us be serious. The African Union should be that person doing the mediation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, candidate from Madagascar. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our second round. And without any transition, we are going to step into the third round, and we are going to discover the question. Anita, you have the floor.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move into the third round. Once again, if you're just joining us, these questions have been formulated by an independent panel, and the questions will be open and seen only at the beginning of the round, as I'm doing right now. Esteemed candidates, on the topic of reviving Pan-Africanism and countering external influence, Pan-Africanism is declining, and external powers and internal divisions challenge Africa's integration efforts. What specific steps will you take to rekindle the spirit of Pan-Africanism, counter big power politics on the continent, mobilize African countries behind a common integration agenda, ensure resource self-reliance, and position regional economic communities at the center of this process?
Chers candidats,
Distinguished candidates, your question is as follows in French.
L'africanisme est en déclin et les puissances extérieures et les divisions internes remettent en cause les efforts d'intégration en Afrique. Quelles mesures spécifiques comptez-vous prendre pour raviver l'esprit du panafricanisme contre la politique des grandes puissances sur le continent, mobiliser les pays africains derrière un programme d'intégration commun commun, assurer l'autonomie en matière de ressources et positionner également les communautés économiques régionales au centre de ce processus. Et nous allons commencer tout de suite avec le candidat.
And we will start with the candidate of Djibouti to provide his answer. You have 4 minutes. First and foremost, we have to understand that we are living in a world which is multipolarized world. This is a world that is actually multipolarized. And this world would not provide space for a continent or countries that do not have the right economies, the military strength, the capacity that is required, and mostly that continent or country that is not on the world stage. This is a reality. So what can we do? What should we do? I think it is very important that the global south should actually take action. And in the global south, it is Africa that actually has to stand out. And how is Africa going to stand out? If we do not represent much in terms of global trade, you cannot. You cannot actually sit around a table where decisions are being taken for the destiny of the world. And so integration is, I would say, an obligation, is a must. When we talk about obligation, it is important that the AFCFTA should actually be functional. It is important that intra-African trade be developed and it should go beyond 18%. It is important that African countries should actually use their own resources. And so Africa has now a seat and the G20 table. We want to congratulate South Africa for chairing the G20 next year. And so it is important that the African Union Commission should be working hand in hand with the African Union to actually make sure that Agenda 2063 is a priority item on the agenda of Agenda 2063 of the G20. Africa has to be also on the UN Security Council. Just imagine 80% of the issues discussed at the UN Security Council is African problems. When we talk about security issues, who do we talk about? Africa. When we talk about food insecurity, we also hear Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia. They have actually been victims of natural disasters, but we are not the ones polluting the world. So the African Union should also be fully involved in the COP discussions. The COP discussions should also be held here in Africa. So a strong Africa has to be an Africa that is present on the global stage. We have to see that Africa has to be part and parcel of the global south. And this is what we have to do. And I'm going to make sure that our commission is going to work to ensure that Africa is part of the global south. Integration is a long-winded effort. It goes through solidarity. We are not working among ourselves. We are not speaking to one another as neighbors. We'd rather trade with non-African countries because we have non-tariff barriers, because our currencies are not convertible. Our currencies are not convertible. If I want to trade in birr with Ethiopia and Ethiopia wants to trade in francs, definitely there is loss of money. So we should have a payment and compensation system in Africa. We have to mobilize resources between 5 and 10 billion so that this compensation system is functional. Are we going to have a single currency in Africa? Why not? That is possible.
Daughter Excellency Randia Mandrato, it's your turn, sir. 4 minutes.
Je ne pense pas.
Well, I do not think that Pan-Africanism is actually dying out. No, because Pan-Africanism is in us. We are Pan-Africanists. You cannot erase the history of this continent, the history which also includes the efforts of our diaspora. So Pan-Africanism is really not dying in Africa. It is true that we all have a huge responsibility. The current generation that we have to work to make sure that the future generation should not forget what our founding fathers actually had in mind when they were establishing the OAU, so that all those who are in Africa should continue to live the same dream the same dream. We inherited this continent from our founding fathers, and we have the Africa that we want. The Africa that we see is the Africa where we live in, and the Africa that we want is the Africa that we want to prepare and which we must prepare. And so there is a clear difference between the Africa in which we are and the African Union, which is our own home, the common house. And if the African Union Commission does not put in the right resources, the human resources and the financial resources, even the diplomats and the military, we will not get to where we want to be. And so I am of the opinion that it all depends on the will of the people to go beyond the challenges that we face today. We all know the problems of our African Union today. There are certain aspects that do not meet the expectations of the people. For example, the SACA audit that was prepared by experts proposing reforms that have to be undertaken. We also have reforms that were undertaken in 2016. So we need to undertake those reforms to ensure that the African Union can actually rise to the challenges. The regional economic communities also have a role to play. I went to COMESA for several years and actually saw the efforts undertaken by countries of COMESA and East Africa. And we see Tunisia, Egypt, in COMESA as well. And this will continue. We have the Abuja Treaty actually defined gradual integration at the regional level and then the continental level. And I know we will get there. And I am going to work with the members of the next commission so that together we can actually make all of this easy. And lastly, I think we should also bear in mind, we should also think about the military bases, the foreign military bases in Africa, in African countries. Some countries have already started to take their own destiny in their hands in terms of their security. We should be brave enough. We should actually have that courage to make sure that we can actually stand out there as adults that can actually take their destiny in their own hands. Foreign military bases in Africa, we do hope that in a few years' time, those military bases will be a thing of the past, because this military base is actually a source of conflict. Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellency Randram Mandriato, candidate of Madagascar. Now we listen to Raila Amolo Odinga, candidate of Kenya.
Thank you. Well, I mentioned earlier on about the inter-African trade, which today stands just at 15%. Inter-European trade, on the other hand, stands at 70%. Inter-Asian trade stands at 60%. Africa trades more with the external world than with itself, wasting a lot of resources. Now, how did Europeans come from behind and leapfrog and overtake Africa? That is something that we need to ask ourselves. But here we need to now look forward to see how we can be able to make use of this huge domestic market that we have. We have a population of 1.4 billion people. And that is what has helped China. China did two things. One was to train the younger generation, the youth, so that they had a very highly skilled manpower. And when they liberalized their economy, the manufacturing unit in the West rushed to China. If you go to China, for example, take the automobile, the Ford, the Jeep, the BMW, the Mercedes, the Toyota, the Nissan, they're all there in China. And because there's cheap, highly skilled, cheap labor. Secondly, cheap raw material. The raw materials which they were actually getting originally from Africa. And that is how China has managed to develop a 600 million people middle class. Africa can be able to fill the gap which is being left down there by China by actually coming together and opening up. So we need to come together as Africa and create an African market which will be able to attract investors to come to our continent. Africa is the youngest continent in terms of population. 70% of our population is below the age of 35. That is a big bonus. It can be a bonus or it can be a curse. If the youth are not empowered, given requisite knowledge and skills, they become a drag to society, drunkards, drug addicts, and criminals. But empowered, they become a real source for wealth creation. It is a pity today that many African youths drown in the Mediterranean trying to seek greener pastures in Europe because you have not created conditions that can retain them here. Now we are saying that we want to create a situation where every African youth must be connected to the internet, and using the artificial intelligence and information technology, we can be able to give this youth opportunity to work anywhere in the world when they're staying here on the continent. This is something that we are going to address, empowerment of the African youth, and together with the African woman, so that we create a workforce that will be helped in terms of wealth creation on the continent. This will enable Africa to leapfrog and to catch up with the rest of the world. I'm saying that I want to be a vehicle to be used to help Africa to get there. We will work together with all the leadership in the continent so that Africa moves.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much, Your Excellency Raila Odinga, finishing us on the third round. And now we move into the fourth and final round, and I give my sister the opportunity to open the envelope and tell us what the first or the last question rather is. And ladies and gentlemen, as a form of a reminder, after this we have a quick break, and after the break each of our esteemed candidates will have 2 minutes to share their closing remarks. Fatima?
Dear candidates, your question is this one. The implementation of the key reforms at the African Union that were decided by the Assembly of Heads of State and Government has come to a standstill, and which has a negative impact on the structural stability and the financial viability of the Union, and also on the lack of the African Union to have an impact. Were you to become the chairperson, what new approaches would you adopt to reinvigorate the implementation of these reforms, rationalize the programs of the African Union, and strengthen its effectiveness in the long term?
Under the topic of implementing of reforms agreed under the Assembly Decision 635, the implementation of key African Union reforms decided by the Assembly of Heads of States and Governments has stalled, with an adverse impact on its structural viability and financial sustainability, and the AU's focus on a high or a few high-impact public goods. If you become chairperson, what new approaches will you introduce to reinvigorate the implementation of these reforms, streamline the AU's agenda, and strengthen its long-term effectiveness?
Et j'invite à présent le candidat.
I'd like to invite the candidate from Madagascar to respond first. First of all, we have to begin by by bringing back order to our shared home at the African Union. I think this is the highest priority. The mandate of the chairperson of the commission as a whole is last 4 years. So that is a very short period of time to be able to change it from top to bottom. What needs to be changed in terms of institutional reforms of the African Union. So one must begin by bringing back order. I did mention a short while ago the recommendations of the SACA audit. I also mentioned the reforms that have already been proposed in 2016. There would be other reforms. What needs to be done were I to become the chairperson of the union would be to review the documents, and one cannot forget history. One cannot ignore history. I don't think we could. We are at the end of a process. So we are at the beginning of a new process, and the outgoing team did what they were able to do with the resources that they had at their disposal. And I would like to thank the outgoing chairperson of the commission, Mr. Faki, and his entire team. And were I to be elected chairperson of the commission, I would work, of course, with the chairperson, because it would be a lady chairperson. Now, these reforms have to be prioritized. There are reforms at the level of the financing of the African Union. There are reforms in terms of mobilization of strategic partnerships. There are, of course, issues that have to do with the effectiveness in the area of peace and security. So we have to prioritize the reforms. Yet, once again, 4 years is too short a period of time. It is therefore important to review objective by objective. Strategic objective is what I mean of the 10-year plan 2024-2032. And since it was my responsibility in COMESA, one can perhaps plan for strategic planning over perhaps 2-3 years, which strategic planning would make it possible for us to identify the urgent issues and to align the financing of these issues. The 10-year plan does not allow one to do this. And maybe were we to have a strategic plan, we could perhaps be more specific and address the matters that need to be addressed urgently in the way of reforms. And I also think, as I said a short while ago, that the organs of the African Union, beginning with the Conference of Heads of State and Government, but also the committee of the PRC, the Permanent Representatives Committee, with the Pan-African Parliament and the other organs, all the organs of the African Union should agree on the speed they should work at, so that at the end of the day, the reforms become visible, become tangible, and that the citizens of the continent can appreciate the effectiveness of a new the effectiveness of the new African Union led by a new team. Thank you.
And now I yield the microphone to you, Excellency Raila Odinga. 4 minutes, sir.
Well, we know where we are as African Union, and that's why the heads of state came up with that committee on reforms, which was headed by former president, current Rwanda President Kagame. The chairmanship has now been passed over to Honorable William Ruto, President of Kenya. I have had long discussions with President Kagame when he was chairing that committee, because I was working as a high representative of the AU on issues of infrastructure. And I know the kind of frustrations that you feel working that way. I know that 93% of the resolutions that are passed by the heads of state at the assembly are never implemented. Now, there's some of them are resolutions which were probably not necessary. Some of them are not implementable, but majority of them are just not implemented. Some have to do with the structure and management of the AU at the headquarters. I'm not trying to pass any judgment here because I know that Mr. Faki has worked very hard to try to make the organization move forward. The other one has been the issue of funding, which has been a major challenge, and look at other alternative sources of funding. When I was there as high rep on infrastructure development, we came up with a proposal to set up an infrastructure fund for Africa, and using the African resources, because many of African countries have got a lot of money in sovereign funds, from which the AU can actually borrow without having to pay so much high interest. And this will help AU actually to spearhead the process of constructing some of these infrastructures. I mentioned the Trans-African Railway network, Lagos to Cairo, the high speed. Then you have got Beira in Mozambique to Lobito in Angola and Walvis Bay in Namibia. Then you have got the LAPSET, which will come from Lamu in Kenya, running through South Sudan, Central Africa to Caribbean Cameroon, to create a land bridge that opens the interior of Africa and gives these landlocked countries in the continent access to the sea. So some of these are possible, but we need to think out of the box and ensure that most of these reforms which are being proposed are implemented. We were talking about energy, which is a very major issue. And we have got the Grand Inga in the Congo, which can actually power the entire continent with power pools, southern power pool, eastern power pool, central, western, and northern power pool. That will help us to lower the cost of energy in the continent. That would be a revolutionary change on the continent. Then you've got the connectivity, fiber optic connectivity, open skies, opening up the skies for movement of people. And then visas, to do visas are a big issue. Many African businessmen cannot travel across the continent without, because they don't have visas.
Excellency, I'm really sorry to interrupt you. Les 4 minutes se sont écoulées. Nous allons maintenant suivre.
We are going now to listen to the response from the last candidate for this round, the candidate from Djibouti.
Let me start by paying tribute to our heads of states who have endorsed those reforms in 2017. And then the champion for those reforms was His Excellency President Kagame, and he passed the responsibility to President Ruto. Now, there are a number of reforms that have already been implemented. We have to recognize that. The size of the commission, we had 10 commissioners, chairperson, deputy chairperson, and 8 commissioners, and it has been reduced. We have what we call a golden rule in terms of managing the staff and the personnel. I'm still waiting for the SACA program to be implemented. I hope that this hot potato will not wait for us, one of us, when we'll be elected. But I hope that the SACA process will be implemented. It is about the personnel, the staff. We have moved from a lot of short contract employees to a permanent contract. That's very important. If you want to create loyalty, you want to create the ownership within your staff and personnel, you have to make them happy. They need to have a permanent contract, and it is in the SACA program. Now, the biggest bottleneck of the reforms is the financing. Our heads of state said we will pay 0.2% of eligible import to the Commission. Only 17 countries, 17, are applying and abiding by that rule. It has to change. I'm not going to impose that on our leaders. It's not my intention, but I will advocate for it. It's very important to have, that particular issue of mobilizing and fostering financing be resolved immediately. Then our experts, there is a unit in the African Union Commission called the Reform Unit, led by Mr. Makoko, a very able African expert. But there are so many reforms that have not been implemented. One of them is PAP, the Pan-African Parliament. It's still a consultative organ. When is the Pan-African Parliament will become a legislative organ? They have passed in 2014 a protocol. Only 15 countries ratified that protocol. And this is one of the major reforms that we have to implement. Then we have on the judicial sector, the Court of Justice, the Commission of Human Rights. Sometimes they are fighting on issues. The Court of Justice do not open its doors to nationals, to African citizens, to NGOs. They're complaining. I am hearing complaints about the African citizens with regard to the Court of Justice. And then they are fighting who is doing what, the Commission of Human Rights. These reforms have to be implemented. And the Bureau of Liaison, a liaison bureau, we have so many on the continent. That's double use of those bureaus. Time is running, time is flying. So we have to rationalize. How can you imagine that you have 3 bureaus in the same region? And we're saying we should have the golden rules for management. And whenever we want to touch one of the bureaus, it's a political matter. It's useless, but it is a political matter. The country that is hosting the bureau is saying, you won't touch it. It has to change. It needs leadership. It needs understanding, negotiation, but it has to change. If you want to change things, we have to be frank and outspoken. We have to be, really tough when it comes to be tough, and lean when it comes to we have to do it. We have to do it.
Yes, sir, your time is up. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of round 4. If you are just joining us, we've had 4 rounds, and each of them has touched on a thematic area. And now we will go for a quick break. When we come back, the candidates each have 2 minutes to share their closing remarks.
Mesdames et messieurs, nous remercions bien.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank our dear candidates for having responded to the last question of the 4th round of this Mjadala Africa Leadership Debate of the African Union. Thank you very much for staying with us. We'll come back in a few minutes. We're going to take another short break. And after the break, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make their closing remarks. See you in a short while.
A man of the people, a mobilizer par excellence.
Fourth round, and they are taking a quick break before they come back, and they'll give their closing remarks. So far, excuse my hair is kind of messed up, but I am so excited I couldn't even fix my hair. But anyway, so far, listen, it's clear as day and night. The Djibouti guy is more knowledgeable, he's more articulate, he's fluent in different languages, and he's flexing. He's saying, I can speak English, I can speak French, I can speak Arabic. Let me respond this in French. Let me respond in English. But anyway, that's not even the big issue. The issue, we judge it into the context, the content, okay? How substantive, how they substantiate their issue, okay? How they respond. You can tell that this guy has depth to him, Mr. Djibouti guy. Now, again, the Madagascar guy, I think the Nino is not doing him justice, the interpreter. But let me just go with Raila Odinga. In the last question, I think the last question that they were asked, how would you guys, make sure that they implement these proposals, this whatever that are supposed to, that are there, that are not being implemented, and make it a sustainable way of implementing these resolutions that have been passed in the African Union? What can you do? And again, that's where Raila kind of, you could see that he's not with it. Like he was talking about, again, I get it. Raila's strongest suit is his experience when he was appointed by Faki to be the head of infrastructural development of Africa. So he keeps on running into that, but you could tell that he was not comfortable with the questions. So he started mumbling about, roads from here to, I don't know, Cameroon to Niger, Abuja to Kisumu. He was all over the place and naming China, BMW instead of BMW, Toyota. He was all over the place. He was just, you could tell that yeah. I mean, listen, yes, I'm biased against Raila Odinga, but truth be told, this was not his stuff, okay? Now, if you compare his answer with the Djibouti guy came out and started mentioning different institutions, you know, whether it's the Pan-African parliament that they were talking about, that was implemented, I guess it was started in 2017 that I didn't know about, and different institutions within this AU that he thinks needs to be revitalized or overhauled, okay? So he was very specific as to which institution within the AU that needs to be looked at, unlike Raila Odinga and the other guy who were just giving you a generic, you know, basic. In fact, Raila Odinga was not even addressing the problem. I mean, at some point he was even talking about, you know, our youth will get drunk and they'll start doing drugs and what are you talking about? Raila Odinga, what are you talking about? You know, so yeah, so in all honesty, even if, again, like somebody said in the comment section here, even if we were not angry with Raila Odinga, let it be said, the truth is the Djibouti guy seems like he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. He's very specific. He's very concise, pithy, you know, eloquent, name it. And, you know, he's to the point, okay? I felt like the last answer he did started well, but he was kind of veering off. But he really showed us the difference. And even the security questions, the guns and whatever question, he also mentioned that. Raila's response was, oh, we need to have a permanent seat in the Security Council, UN Security Council, and we should do what. Then Raila was talking about, you should use me as a vehicle. I mean, what? It's not about using you, you know? And now if you compare that with, again, the Djibouti guy, he was talking about, listen, he gave an example of Somali. There's no unity in purpose. You know, most of these heads of state, they say one thing and they don't do it, and we have to be honest. So he's really attacking the problem, highlighting what actually happens in these discussions, how things go, what is being said by these head of states and what's reality, and why countries sometimes don't see eye to eye. Why do we have guns in Africa? Why do we have African countries fighting? He mentioned all of that stuff. Again, this guy, it's almost like he knows in and out what this job is all about. He knows the relationships or lack thereof of different factions within a nation and, you know, between two nations, the conflicts, how to go about it. You know, again, if you look at his resume, this guy has been in conflict resolution missions all across Africa, not only Africa, even in Europe. Okay, so this guy is a top diplomat, and he speaks and sound like it. Okay, Raila and the other guy, they're just giving you what you want to hear. Oh yeah, use me as a vehicle. I'll help you. I'll bring together. It must be done. We need to be having whatever. You see what I'm saying? It's a difference. It's nikama uniulize. Okay, here's the third part of it. Let's get back to it and let's listen to it. Then I'll come back after they give their closing remarks. Thank you, guys. Please don't forget, like, share, comment, and do all the good stuff. Sawa. All right, let's get back to it. Sorry, I will be back.
Your hands and that you are actively involved in doing this together. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are back to our last session. My name is Anita Erskine, and I'm joined here by my colleague Fatima Sharif, who is our French speaker.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Anita. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us for this final lap of the Mjadala Africa Leadership Debate of the African Union. You have listened during the debate, the questions that were raised, the answers that were given by the different candidates, and we're coming to the end of the debate. And so, Anita, we're going to listen to the closing remarks to the candidates. So thank you very much, Fatima.
Candidates, you each have 2 minutes to share your closing remarks, or better still, your last words. We will start this round with His Excellency Raila Odinga.
Thank you. I am delighted to have the opportunity to address people of Africa. And as I've said, I am ready to work for Africa. There are reforms that will be necessary so that AU can work more effectively. One of these reforms will be financial reforms, so that we are able to bring in the African private sector into the funding. I mentioned also the issue of sovereign funds that we can use. We can create a fund that will enable AU to do all its money work. Then there's issue of 0.2% of the duty, which only 17 countries are remitting. I will work to ensure that all the countries can pay their dues to the Union. This is what happens in the European Union, and that's why European Union is able to even fund African Union. It's a shame. We can be able to fund this organization out of our own resources on the continent. And this is what I'm going to try to do. And I said that I am ready on day one when I'm appointed. I will not need any kind of induction. I'm ready to work for the continent, and I will offer my best. The days of Africa have come. The African lion will begin to roar and tell its Asian tiger counterpart and the European bear and the American jaguar that this is going to be Africa's millennium. The 2000.
Dear candidate, I'm really sorry to interrupt you once again, but these are the rules of the debate. Nous allons maintenant, mesdames et
We are going now, ladies and gentlemen, give 2 minutes to the candidate of Djibouti closing remarks.
Thank you so much, and let me speak in Arabic. I would like to say that if I will be elected as the chair of the African Union Commission, I will be up to your aspirations, and I will defend the interests of our continent, and I will work diligently to defend our continent, and with the full modesty, I think that I deserve it.
Je souhaite à nos pays, à nos peuples africains.
So I wish for our African people, our countries, a very happy 2025.
Africans tonight, I wish to all African nations and citizens all the best. Thank you for your support.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now 2 minutes for you, His Excellency Richard J. Randemandrato.
En 2025,
in 2025, there will be a new team that will be leading for 4 years. Will be leading the African Union Commission for 4 years, and there shall be 8 high-level public servants like most of us, and we shall be the ones to continue with the reforms. We shall be a united team, a team that will have the team spirit to continue in the implementation of the 10-year plan of Agenda 2063. I do regret that this evening we're not able to handle subjects that are so urgent because we did not have enough time. Issues such as public health, the debt, issues of financing and financial institutions of the African Union, questions that have to do with the participation of the civil society and the diaspora, the questions that are linked to information and digital technology. I'm sorry we did not have time to deal with those issues, but on we shall have other opportunities, and I shall be able to make my modest contribution. Like in public sport, there have to be players, and there have to be those who choose, who select the players, those who select the heads of state. It is up to them to select the team that will lead the African Union Commission. For their need, we need a leader. Men and women need a leader, and I hope that in 2025, the wisdom of heads of state and government will balance the team that will win, so that the Africa that we want can continue to win the battle for sustainable development. Thank you. Thank you very much for these closing remarks that have been made by the different candidates.
Candidates, ladies and gentlemen, please, another round of applause for our esteemed candidates. Tonight, we have heard from His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Foreign Affairs Minister Djibouti. We've also heard from His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, former Prime Minister of Kenya. We've also heard from His Excellency Richard J. Randyamandrato, who is the former Foreign Affairs Minister of Madagascar. Each one of our candidates has done an exceptional job talking about the thematic areas that were set before them. We've talked about advancing economic integration. We've talked about promoting peace and security as well as democracy, Africa's place in global affairs, and reforming the African Union, amongst many. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute honor bringing you Mjadala Africa Leadership Debate 2024.
Merci infiniment.
Thank you very much, Anisha. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the Mjadala Leadership Debate, direct streamed line from the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa. We were delighted to have you with us for the moderation of this debate. Of course, we wish the different candidates all the very best. The election of the new chairperson will take place at the level of the African Union Commission. It will take place in February next year. And thank you to all of you for having been with us, and have a good evening.
Well. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Please like this, like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'm about to give you my take on this, a comprehensive, quick review on what has taken place, and I will put the link for anybody to come in and give me their view. Let us know. What do you think? Did Raila perform well? Come in, chime in, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades. That was interesting to say the least. But anyway, karibuni, I'll put the link in so I hear your take on what transpired. Chief Negus today is telling me Raila is old and slow of mind, comes off the typical African strongman dictator that many Africans have fought hard to get rid of. Right, that's a nice one. The Rosa M says the Djibouti guy spoke to every African. Okay, Yusuf says Raila comes in third. Pritpal Kaur is telling Raila 50-50. All right, let me put the link for anyone who wants to get to the studio and tell me what they think about Raila's performance. I don't think his performance was disastrous, as maybe some of us expected. He held his own. He was okay. I mean, nothing disastrous. But as far as when you look at the content of what he was saying, the substance was not really there as far as how he was answering the questions. I think his let me put my hoodie up. I think his answers were quite, just basic answers that I could have gone there and gave the answers that he gave. He just gave his, very generic shit that you can say when you are in front of people. Okay, promises, telling people about what you use me as a vehicle, I'll help Africa, blah 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 blah. You know the drill. But I don't think he was that bad. He performed okay. I would say okay. Not a disaster, but okay. Okay. So I want if you are, I know the ODM pro Raila guys will spin it and say, yeah, Uyona Baba, Baba, Baba. Baba, baba, baba. I know how you can. Somebody goes to Kaluma's tweet or Gabriel Ogoda, you will laugh. I haven't seen it yet, but I can just imagine like, Baba of Africa, the lion that's roaring. It's just some childish stuff. But overall, I think he did okay. But as far as substance, there was a huge difference. I tend to believe that the guys from, is it Mauritius or Seychelles? I think he has a background in finance or something, because he really wanted a discussion about, finance and all this stuff and all this. That he even said in his closing remark. But the Djibouti guy was exceptional. I know the presenters will say they were all exceptional just to be nice, but the real exceptional leader here, the real difference, it was night and day, was Mr. Mahmoud Youssef, I think that's his name, the Djibouti candidate, who really, really was very eloquent, very knowledgeable. I mean, he was very, he gave you the 1, 2, 3, 4 steps of how he can change Africa. AU. Karibu sana Gypsy Corner. You led the party, but Karibu anyway. So, okay, I'll put the link for anyone who, I want to hear everyone's view, or anyone who's really wants to come in and just give him a view. We want to hear your voice. Tell us what you think about the performance, Raila's performance, the Djibouti guy or the other guy, okay? Because, like I say, the other guy, I don't know if it's the voice of the interpreter or he just sounded, it wasn't coming out good. But overall, I think, like I said, overall, it was an okay performance by Raila Odinga, but the difference was in the content of what they were actually saying, how they were answering the questions. That's where we really saw the difference. The link is in the chat. If you guys want to come in, I'll give you guys 5 minutes. If you want to give me, if you don't want to come in, that's fine. Meantime, but I really want to hear what people have to say about this. Again, I mentioned in in their talking points, in their answers, where the difference came was when they were asked about the guns, the silence gun question. I think that was the question, basically referring to how they can end the violence, the wars that happens in Africa. And the other question was also a question of how they can implement these resolutions that have been passed through the African Union Parliament, or whatever the case that you want to call it. Okay, all right, Gypsy Corner. I forgot about that, but nice seeing you, my friend. So yes. So I think in those two questions, that's when we saw the difference between all these leaders. I think it was clear. Like I said, Raila was coming out and telling us about, Africa needs a permanent seat, at least 2 seats at the UN Security Council, saying that, Europe has whatever. Then again, what did he say? He kept on mumbling about, I know Raila was really trying to beat on his strongest suit, his experience when he was the head of infrastructural development of the AU, and that's what he kept on trying to, walk us through that, telling us about that experience, which is fine, but it had nothing to do with the questions at hand. Like again, when he was asked, how will you implement these resolutions that have been passed through the AU Commission and has not been, realized? What would you do differently? And he went and told us about China and bridges and whatever, and countries, Nigeria, Morocco, Sudan, I don't know what. Okay. But the Djibouti guy really mentioned he first of all called out the heads of states who are not really have been, dragging their feet on the implementation of these resolutions. He also highlighted the different institutions within the AU that has been dormant, that are not doing anything, that needs to be either revitalized or overhauled, or just had to be kicked in their backs to do something. Okay, so he talked like somebody who's really understands the architecture of the AU, how it works, what needs to be done, what action, who needs to be needs to be told what to do or whatever. Just, and I like his answer when he said, I cannot force the heads of states to do something, but I would encourage or, promote the idea of A, B, and C. He was really whatever. Even his answer, when they were being asked, how can you transform the Africans' rich resources into wealth? And again, Raila started with, the problem is that we have external forces, these IMF banks that are, giving us these loans that are unfair. Then he went on and told us, we don't trade with other countries enough, and the tariffs. And it was sort of the same answer was given with the other union. But again, the Djibouti guy, when it was his turn, I really liked his answers, and he started with the root cause. He started, listen, if you're going to transform Africa, we have to start with the people. We forgot about the people. You want to talk about all this, abstract solutions while you're forgetting about the actual people who live in the land. So you have to start with the people, invest in the people first. Are they educated enough? Do they need, some skills or whatever the case is? Whatever. Then he went to the land. They say the land. What about the land? Are we cultivating enough? Are we mining? Then number 3, he talks about securing this wealth that we have. Okay, so he's talking about the human resource, which is the people, then the resources that we get from the land, and then he's talking about protecting the land, which is actually a wonderful, perfect answer anyone could give. Not this IMF, we need to trade with each other. He said, and that's why he said, even the tariffs is not an issue if you start with what I've just talked about. That can take care of itself if we can secure our land, our wealth, take care of our land, and invest on the human capital. Okay, so that's why I said it was a really wonderful. This guy looked like, in fact, the Djibouti guy seemed like he was knowledgeable to a point where he didn't want to it's almost like that smart kid who's really smart that doesn't want to show that he's smarter than everybody else. So he's just going to be nice and say things in a very nice way. And that's how I'm reading. I'm sorry. That's how I'm reading it. Okay, let me take this banner off. I know maybe some people might be offended, but that's okay. I needed to offend you a little bit. But yeah, but that's just how I see it. I think that was a really, 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 really good performance by the Djibouti guy. Then what else? The closing remark was also, again, Raila's tumble started at the 3rd round and the 4th, and his closing remark was disastrous. Okay, he started well, even though I felt his introduction was kind of weird when he started saying, okay, I'm a son of Africa, I was born in Kenya, even though I've been told I'm from Sudan. Make up your freaking mind. Are you from Kenya or are you from Sudan? Don't tell us about your history in Sudan. But anyways, he did well, like I say, he did okay until the 3rd round. Then things started looking, but yeah. Anyway, in summation, this is my final not my final submission, by my Ninio. It wasn't a total disaster from Raila. It was okay. It was an okay performance. Okay, it was okay performance. If I was to grade him, let's say from a scale 1 to 10, I would give him a solid 5. Okay, a 5. It's an average. He did what he was supposed to do. Stand there, give some answers, and look important. Look important, basically. Look like you can do the job. The closing remarks, number 1, it usually doesn't look good if you are over talking. You've been given 2 minutes and you want to take 10. Talking about American Jaguar and African Lion and Africa is the new, I don't know, cut that crap out. Nobody cares. Just say what you wanted to say, okay? Then again, the 3rd round, when he was talking, he was asked, how are you going to implement these resolutions that have been passed? And again, he started talking about China. You see what I'm saying? He kind of started losing it there. But he started out well, giving basic generic answers, like I say. But just if somebody didn't watch the whole debate and ask me who was the winner, hands down, the Djibouti guy was clear. He was the best. And this guy was flexing, okay? First of Mr. Djibouti, okay, Mr. Djibouti, you need to be humble. This guy was like, you know what? The next round, I'm gonna speak in French. What? Then the next round he went back to English. Then the closing round to say, I'll speak in Arabic. This man was flexing. He was like, I'm overqualified. Erika Yaga, I see you. This guy was he was like too good for this. Listen, if he was up to me, I would have hired the Djibouti guy right there and there. I would be like, Djibouti man, Mahmoud Yusuf, you are hired right there. Please, here's the keys. There's those drivers will drive you to the office. Ingia hapo wanze kazi. Tafadhali, please let us not wait. Let's not waste each other's time. Tusingoje February, Mr. Djibouti, chukua kazi. It is yours already. We are not going to waste everybody's time here. It is due to for what? Hire Papo Hapo. Immediately. I'll sign here. Please. We shall give you, your pension will be this. Endelea na kazi. That's how clear it was. It was clear as day and night. You don't have to be a genius. Just, sometimes when you listen to what people say as it relates to the question, that's when the difference came, okay? Again, if Raila loses this seat, it will be an embarrassment. I think it will not bode well. It will be a disaster. The man will come back to Kenya. Woe unto Kenyans who will be in Kenya. Because it will be a mess. If he doesn't win the AU, this thing will go south. It will be a mess. I don't know how it will be, but prepare, my friends. It will be something else, okay? But yeah, so that's the main news of the day. Raila's Odinga. I would say he came out hard. He was yeah. Because I think he was just, yeah. Rosa is saying Raila coming back will call. Hi, Raila Odinga. John Dideo is saying it will be Ruto's fault. It will. He has to win this. Raila go rig. Do something. Ambia Ruto kupatia pesa ulipe hawa ma-presidents wakupigie. Yes, like I was saying, when Mahmoud Yusuf, the Djibouti candidate, he closed in Arabic. So listen, this is the Ninio. This is the what do you call it? This is the psychology of this, of the trilingual man, or he's multilingual. The guy, the Djibouti guy. He started with English, okay, which that woos all the nations that speak English, okay. Of course, the head of states are going to be voting, but they'll be like, this guy can speak English. He's speaking our language, yo. Then he goes with French. The French-speaking nations will be like, he's one of us. Then he concludes in Arabic. So all the Islamic nations, North Africa, Algeria, whatever, Somalia, Djibouti, Ethiopia. Well, Ethiopia doesn't speak, but they'll all be thinking about voting for him. You see that strategy? It's subconsciously appealing to the different areas of Africa, whether it's the Anglo-speaking nations, the Francophones, and the Arab Muslim nations. So you see how he played it? He was very strategic. And I like his ending too, his closing remark. He was very brief. very brief in Arabic, then he went English and closed it out. See mambo yat, yeah, I'm an African lion. I mean, what the bro? What the hell are you talking about? African lion. Anyway. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. We don't. What do you think? We don't want bloodshed. Let Raila stay in AU chair. Let's bribe them. Let's bribe. No, let him come. Wacha kuje. Akitaka vita tutampeleka kamiti. We are not playing with him. Yeah. Hey, kwani Kenya ni yake? I will do the same. Why not? All right. Yeah. So that was that. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, I will save this for my next session. I wanted to talk about something else. Oh, let me see as the reaction. Let me see people's reaction, because let me go to every different tweets and see how people are reacting to everything. Maybe there's something new. I don't know what people are saying. Okay, let's get here. Let's see. Miguna hasn't said anything yet. Well, Miguna is saying, let me see. Let's go to Twitter sphere. Let's go to Twitter sphere, ladies and gentlemen. Please do me a favor, guys. As I'm speaking right now, please, if you haven't subscribed, go subscribe right now. Right now, like I'm talking to you right now. Right now. Subscribe, like, share, comment, okay? Like if you haven't liked the video, go ahead and like it. Now, I my like. Hey, Shabba Sabab. Like the video right now. Then subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Subscribe! Hey, nini? Mukae mstari wa mbele. Okay, mukae mstari wa mbele. Like right now and subscribe and share in your WhatsApp group and everything. Timim, tabam. Okay, 20. Let me see what the Twitter sphere is saying right now so we can read the reaction by people from the psycho fans to Raila haters. Let's see what are people saying. Amana gani? Okay, so far I'm looking at Miguna's tweet. He hasn't tweeted anything. This was 15 hours ago. Oh, sorry guys, I'm still recovering from a cough. But anyway, this is what Miguna was saying. This is our AUC chairman, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, vibrant, visionary, eloquent, and energetic, a Pan-African par excellence. Retweet and post until it reaches all African capitals. Viva! That is what Miguna said 15 hours ago. DJ Moda, una kinywa nini we mtu? Ay, we. Who is this? Nani? Whatever. Anyway, let's go to other tweets. Let me go to Kaloma. Maybe he's saying something. I want to see this. This has to be good. Let's see what he's saying. I need a good laugh. I haven't laughed for a while. Let me see. 7 minutes ago. Okay, let's see. This is 7 minutes ago. Let's read this. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. Just to remind you, he's a Raila psycho fan. So let's read it. Hey, he's writing something. What the heck? Come on, download. All right, so this is what he says. This is Kaloma. In 2 minutes, Babawa Africa has taken us through all infrastructure needed to open up the continent and facilitate intra-African trade. Did you know that a single waterfall in DRC, if harnessed well, can supply the entire Africa with adequate hydroelectric power for domestic and industrial use? We now entrust the presidents of Africa with the sacred duty to give us Baba as the African Union Commission in February 2025. Why? Kaluma is something else. I swear, this guy is a tool. He's a total tool. Who else? Let's see who else is he had something 16 minutes ago. I mean, he was quoting Raila every 2 seconds. Let's see another one by Kaloma, George Peter Kaloma. Very stupid guy. An imbecile par excellence. Let's see. He's saying, in quotes, I'm ready to serve Africa from day one if elected. I don't need induction. The day of the African lion is here. Baba wa Africa at Raila Odinga in his closing remarks. Man, get the fuck out of here. But anyway, it's for shits and giggles. 30 minutes ago, he was like, this guy is not going to stop. He was like, son of Africa for Africa. The leadership weight of Baba or Africa at Raila Odinga is all the African Union Commission now needs to reassert the place of Africa in the world and to recapture the dignity of the African people in the global community. Hashtag Raila for AUC, hashtag Raila for Africa. 45 minutes ago, inter-Africa trade stands at the bare 15%. Intra-European stands at over 60%. Africa must trade with itself to prosper. We must eradicate unnecessary tariff barriers and improve on infrastructure to facilitate trade across the continent. It is a shame to see Africans die. While I don't know what, I'm not going to leave that bullshit. But anyway, that was Kaloma. Oh, Melchizedek is here. Sorry. Yeah. Melchizedek, karibu. Maoni yako, uliona hiyo ninio? Uliona hiyo debate?
I was sick and tired.
You are sick and tired. Why? What's going on? Hautaki kuona baba vile anashinda AUC. Baba mwenyewe terengenye. Agwambo Conman. Ayatonda poda. Chor ida. Hey. Utaki kuona
Kidiki budi. There is a song. Kuna nyimbo tulikuwa tunaimba kama tumeenda kwa mto, kama tulikuwa wadogo. Jadolo bimake yamo kethono wapi. Sasa hiyo unajua kuna baridi. Baridi imeoka buda. Buda sasa anaongea tu kisungumkuti.
Hey.
Wacha baba ajitetee. Hapo hatuwezi sema.
Hakuna maandamano hii next time, hakuna maandamano akishindwa.
Hakuna. Si hata nini? Si hata organize nini? Watu wa Kenya waende waandamane. Watu wa Kisumu.
Oh, sorry. Erika Yaga pia ameingia hapa. Hey, Erika Yaga. Aya.
We will have international maandamano.
International ya Addis Ababa.
But do I say? It will be Kombutu. Unlimited, my friend. It's not a joke.
Not a joke, eh? Hey, wacha nikaribishe Erika Yaga. Najua yeye ni mtu wa Raila. Tusikia nasema nini. Eric, uliona aje hiyo interview yako? Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Uko aje?
Niko sawa kabisa.
Wewe ndio unachokoza baba. Wewe ndio unachokoza baba. Usirudi Kenya na urudi ukivaa helmet.
Mimi niko Kenya. Unasema niko Kenya hapo.
Oh, Bishak, wewe kaa uko Kenya, wewe nitakutafuta tu hapo chini tuongee. Huyu Kenya Revolution ndio nitatafuta yeye ile siku atarudi.
Unitafute tu, hakuna shida. Unipata tu. Sawa, unaona baba alifanya aje? Uliona hiyo interview iliendaje?
Nimewacha debate kwa sawa, baba ako sawa na tunamwombea. You know let me tell Kenyans one thing, yeah? Let us sometimes behave like Israel. They have their internal fighting, but when an external enemy comes, they are together. But you know, Kenya, we are becoming now stupid. Where when we have our internal issues, we are taking our internal issues into external territory and start fighting there. We look confused and stupid. I was also in a SpaceX for Djiboutian. I was telling them, support your guy. For that, they are also bashing that guy left, right, and center. I was wondering what's up. Mpaka nikashindwa. So Africa, maybe that is just a problem with us. Kenya, we are fighting. The many Kenyans are fighting for Raila. They are fighting Raila. He should not get that thing. I think when Kenya gets such a position, it elevates our country. Raila is like our ambassador. Any reasonable Kenya, any reasonable Kenya should actually support Raila. This is an international war. Even if we had any candidate, anybody, hata Gachagua ndiye angechukuliwa ako candidate yetu huko, tungemsupport tu, ama hata Mudavadi, anybody. Let us not pick our internal political problems to international arena. We look fools. We look stupid. And we are smiling and we are happy. And we are laughing.
Ayaga, let me ask you a question. So how is Raila Odinga becoming AU chairperson? How does that help Kenyans? Because he will be serving the entire, not the entire Africa. Actually, he will be working for the AU. So he's working in a diplomatic the top diplomat of African Union. Remember, there are some countries in Africa who don't even recognize AU, like the Sahel nations. So, but how is him becoming the AU chairperson? How does it benefit us as Kenyans, if not him? Because atakuwa anakula tu mshahara yake kama Raila. Sisi hatupati kitu. How is that helping us?
My friend, Kenya Revolution, I don't know who bewitched you, my brother. It is like you are asking me. It is like you are asking me if that guy of athletics, Eliud, Kipchoge, wins a gold medal. How is that help Kenya? You know, how is that help Kenya? That is what you are asking me, my friend. Just taking your country to a global stage, taking your country to a global stage, having a soil, being the AU chairman, something that we may look for many years.
Eric, ngoja kidogo. Wait a minute. Eliud, when he goes to run, he runs as a Kenyan. He is a Kenyan athlete in the Olympics. So he's representing us. So when he wins, yes, he will get the money, but also Kenya are also getting the safer. When Raila becomes the AU chairperson, he will be no longer representing Kenya as the country. He will be representing AUC, African member states. Every country of Africa that is under the AU banner. So not Kenya only. So how is that going to benefit me? Haleti unga kwa mkono yangu, haleti msera kwa nini, haleti economy asaidie hapa Kenya. Yeye anakaa huko AU Addis Ababa, atakuwa pea nyumba Addis Ababa na anakula pesa tu yeye huko peke yake na Eda. Hainisaidii.
Kenya revolution. Kenya revolution. Listen. Now listen.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I wish you read a book called Homestretch. That book is written by somebody called Keslahabi. Speaking like the way he gives some reasons I'm seeing on you. So I'm telling you that in Africa, let me take you back home. We always say there are some benefits that comes with the leadership. That's why we are fighting for leadership in Africa. Everybody wants a leader to be in his village. When a road is tarmacked, going to the leader's house, home, or village, many people follow that road. That's what Africans take a credit when a leader comes from your area. When Raila becomes AU chairman, there are some small benefits that will actually help people down from Kenya. There are some leverage we have as a state. You cannot compare us with Uganda. You cannot compare us with nations. They cannot produce anybody in Africa. They are banned in so many things. Number one, we must thank God our democracy is so that we can produce somebody to run for that seat. That's why it's called a Kenyan candidate. If you had the interview, I think you had it. because you are listening to it. He's called a Kenyan candidate, a Djiboutian candidate, and Madagascan candidate. So let us not have this hatred of our internal political issues into AUC. Tafadhali, it make us look like it is very childish.
Okay, let me ask you this. So the reason why I have my my Ninio on Raila, because Raila told us that we are going to open the servers. Nilishinda is Ninio. In fact, nitaingia Ikulu. Tunataka kusanya Ninio, tulete the Ninio, tulete bei ya Ninio chini, bei ya maisha iende chini, tufungue server na Ninio tuende Ikulu kwa sababu mimi ndio nilishinda. 1 month later akaenda kushikana na Ruto muuaji, sasa yako kwa government. Mtu kama huyo utamwamini kwa nini aende AUC? Apeleke hiyo Conmanship yake huko AUC. Conman ni Conman, whether you go to AUC or you're in Kisumu or you're in Nairobi. Now what do you do for order? See, I'm not done yet. I'll give you the answer. I'll give you the microphone. I haven't finished yet. Not only that, he was the MP of Ninio, MP of Kibera, Langata for how many years? What development did he bring? Not only that, in 2017, when we won and we made him the people's president after Uhuru stole the election, what did he do while people are being killed in Nyalenda? Has he even asked for people to get paid who are killed, who stood up for him? This Conman, who you are telling us to support it to go to AUC, he could barely talk. Why shall we support this person? Now, take it from there.
Can I answer you?
Yes, answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, my brother. I like it, the way you are bringing it. You have not walked out of 2022 election. I'm very sorry for you. You still have 2022 election fever, and I'm very sorry for you, and I wish you a quick recovery. That's number two. Number two, let me say this. Politics is like marriage, yeah? If you choose to marry a person that your community or your family do not love, and you decide to marry that lady, what does the family do? Wanakusaidia kupenda. If Kenyans in their total numbers choose to vote for William Ruto, and the court confirm that it is William Ruto, and Supreme Court also confirms, IBC declare him the president, Supreme Court actually confirm it. What should we do? Should we start pick a gun and start fighting? No. Tunawasaidia kupenda. Raila asalimia Ruto, tunawasaidia kupenda hiyo Ruto. Hata mimi nawasaidia kupenda Ruto up to 2027. That is the law. That is the law. That is what is in our constitution. Unless you have a constitution somewhere, Kenyan revolution, you want to read for us. That is not a Kenyan constitution. Maybe it is a Ugandan. Here we don't pick guns. Here we are democratic. Here we use law. We use rule. We follow the law. My brother, let's help them kupenda Ruto. Let us help them kupenda. Ngoja kidogo, Mishak. Wacha tusaidia kupenda what they chose as a wife, and they have to stay with that wife as per the constitution. 5 years contract. Wakichagua ama wasichague kumrudisha, wakichagua kumrudisha, tena tutawasaidia kupenda for another 5 years up to 2032. Even if they want to change the constitution, they can give him more. But when the election is done, let us walk out of the election. We cannot carry the baggage or heavy burden of election that happened 2-3 years ago, and we still want to judge people with that. What should Raila do? I think Raila never picked a gun to start fighting Kenya to cause Kenya have a civil war. We couldn't have Raila at that stage. That tolerance Raila have when it comes to political thuggery that is in this country, being supported by the people from the certain region since 1963, and blaming Raila on that, it is now upon them to realize that whenever they vote in their large numbers, they always say they have majority. If that majority number, they used to wakipenda kuchagua a hogwash human being like Rigathi Gachagua, tutawasaidia kupenda huyo Rigathi Gachagua. If they choose to elect somebody like Moses Kuria, we will help them na huyo. So wasitulaumu, whatever they choose, that will be the choice of Kenya, and when the court say so, tutawasaidia kupenda.
Lakini anasaidia kupenda wacha niingize Melchizedek, lakini kabla sijaingiza Melchizedek, anasaidia kupenda Ruto akishapewa pesa, akishapewa kiti, akishapewa vitu, akishanyunuliwa na Ruto, ndio anajifanya ati tupende Ruto. Hiyo tumekataa, wadagi wakataa kata. Melchizedek, endelea.
Raila jalipwa na Ruto.
Amelipwa. Jalipwa. Ngoja Yaga, wacha Melchizedek aseme kitu alafu ndakurudisha. Haya, Melchizedek.
Just a minute, my friend. Stop all this dramatic what you are doing. You are not the only person talking here. And it's not apology. Wacha niongee. Kwani hii session ni yako peke yako bwana? Anyway. Unaongea mzuri kabisa. Hatujakataa. But I want to ask you a few questions. My first question, if Raila become chairman, what will he bring on your table? That's the first question. The second question, how will he help Kenyans to achieve the problem that we are facing right now? The third question, how will he change in his way, the way he was doing on things until now? They are still doing the same handshake from maneno kutoka Moi mpaka leo. How will that one help us? Will you just answer me? Don't talk too much. I just need answers because I don't have time. Thank you.
Ayaga, swali ni kwako. Jibu. Ayaga huko. Sijui Ayaga amekufa ama ni nini. Okay, huyo. Haya. Ayaga endelea.
Yes, I'm saying this, if my brother, you are voting for somebody to bring a food on your table, I'm very sorry for you. You are new in democracy. You are just yapping. You don't know what a democracy is or voting or the voting process is. We don't vote for people to bring food or anything on our table. And that's why when I support Raila now in the AUC, I'm supporting Raila as my fellow Kenyans, not as a duo. It's just by coincidence that we are coming from the same ethnic extract. So I'm not supporting him as a or as somebody I come from, speak the language native language I spoke. So I'm sorry for you for that question. Your second question, you're asking what will that stop the handshake? We need handshakes. Every election we need handshake. We have seen Donald Trump has done a handshake with the winner. Biden ameita Trump wakasimiana. That's how democracy works. The winner, the majority have their way and the minority have their say. Simple and clear. So I don't know why. Just give me the reason why Raila should not be there and that Djibouti candidate should be there. Don't stop asking me. You just oppose Raila. You know your problem is Raila because he did a handshake with Ruto. So tell me as Misha, if I was Raila, I could have picked gun and started fighting. Cause chaos, destruction of property, and killing innocent people. If that is what you want, just to talk and promote what you believe in. But me and Raila, we believe on one thing. Once the election is done, you extend hand to your competitor, mnasalimiana na maisha yanaendelea. And that's why election ego after every 5 years. It is not a life and death thing.
Anasalimia Ruto akishapewa pesa na amepewa kazi ya AU aende AU because you are causing distraction and mlikuwa mnapeleka vita siku za maandamano. You even brought Mungiki to help you with maandamano with Maina Njenga in 2017. I didn't say Raila was advocating for people to bring guns. He said tuendeni kwa streets and remove nani and I'll be declared the president. We declared him the people's president at Uhuru Park. Okay? Then he turns around against the people, and people died because of him. And he never apologized. And now you're coming to tell us here we should support this conman, Telengenyi, or Poda. This is well from Poda to go to AU because as he's representing Kenya. We have better people than Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is a conman.
Rick, are you taking this marijuana or bangle? Which one are you taking? Because even we wonder, cheap pombe sio mzuri bwana. Ukikunywa acha ya macho.
In my life, I don't take alcohol in the first place. I don't take alcohol. You want me to abuse my fellow Kenyan to make you happy that Eric Ayaga is not taking alcohol. If supporting Raila Odinga and calling this stupid internal fighting in Kenya that is being propelled to an international platform as stupidity and nonsense, and the people is drinking alcohol, so be it. Alcohol is not human being. Brother, I don't take alcohol. I don't mitivuti gani, sikuli jara, sikuli moka, na sikuli pombe. That's how we speak.
Najua ile mapepo Ruto alikuwa anasema. Wewe uko na mapepo ile Ruto alikuwa anasema. Your phone, Gachako, your phone is not clear.
The only problem that you are suffering from Raila phobia. So we understand, my friend. So sorry. Because you don't feel the pain that Kenyans are feeling. You're just seeing everything is okay with you. Maybe because you are getting something small. I know. It's something that is on your head from the beginning. You are the people who went there to cheer for him because he was talking about something that doesn't even make sense, my friend. You have to be realistic, man. You are a man that still have a family. When things are going on, you have to think about other people also. Don't think about yourself. You don't need to think about yourself. Even these people, the people are dying. Who brought up the issue of Mandaman? Who brought Mandaman? Is this the same person called Raila? And people die because of this guy.
Yes.
You still support this guy because this guy is the one who said that Ruto should go. The name
yes.
Nani? Alisema Nani? Kenyatta must go. Now you are telling us that is very nice because he's going to him. Oh, bro.
Support him.
Don't fool us. Don't fool us.
Ayaga, I'm looking for you. Let us not meet. Let God forgive you.
Don't fool us here. We also understand. We understand what is taking place in Kenya. So don't fool us.
Kenya revolution.
Yes.
No.
I'm not fooling you. Meshach, you should also not suffer from Raila mania. I may suffer from Raila fear, and you should also not suffer from Raila mania. You should not suffer.
Raila is the only God that people can praise. Raila is not God. No one can praise him. Go there, but on our side, we decide not to support him because of what he does for Kenyans.
Raila should be in committee. Eating nyoyo.
If he's a genuine guy, he could have finished what is taking place now before he go to AU. But
Raila has been in committee before. Raila has been in committee before. So you don't
No, you think he was lying that.
Which means you are supporting also Ruto. Which means you are supporting also Ruto the way he's doing it on this.
Raila, let me tell you something.
I don't support Kenya Revolution. Just 1 minute.
Yes.
No.
I don't support William.
Are you supporting Ruto? Are you supporting
I
Ruto?
don't.
But why are you talking about these three people? They are now like Chanda na Pepe.
No.
If you support one person, what does that mean? What is that? What does that mean?
Meshach, even kufundisha niko na problem na Ruto, but now that Raila is looking for is also
Ayaga, your phone is Ninio, has a lot of Ninio, echo, whatever the case is, static.
You can
Sijui
go,
connection.
unaweza panda mti tukusikie vizuri hapo. Bro, if something wrong, it has to be put out so people could understand what is taking place. I get very, very annoyed when someone is coming to convince people, and what is trying to convince people is something that everyone can see.
Yeah.
He has gone there. He has gone there. We don't have any problem that. But the problem we have is someone that doesn't understand what people are passing through. If I'm wrong, you can prove me wrong right now.
Okay,
If I'm saying this is the same guy. This is the same guy who said that Ruto must go. Right?
Yeah.
He said, I'm the one who won the election. If he won the election and he wants good to Kenya, why he leave that thing now is running for something else? Are you going to support him to organize maandamano where he is when he lose?
Ayaga talk.
Nilishakwambia panda.
Your phone is tunakusikia lakini iko na ninio, iko na statics mingi sana. Sijui ni I don't know where you are.
Mwambie kama hakuna nini aende kwa mahindi ama pande juu ya mapera. Kwani ni Kenya?
Shida ya baba, I think kuna stima iko so ina destabilize my network. So hiyo ndio kitu tunasema. Kama unataka tuongee siasa za Kenya, tuongee siasa za Kenya. You cannot bring siasa za EU and Kenya at the same time.
Kenya is in the AU where we are talking about. We are talking about Kenya. We talk as a AU member.
Order. Eric, Dani, simu yako iko na ninio, yani iko na static mingi sana. Ndio huyo ametoka.
Aski. Sasa kama network ndio shida, sasa ata support baba atampea nini? Si aende baba akununulie nini? Data. Bana, unajua watu kaa hawa ndio unasikianga kupeleka mbali.
We like divergent views. Wacha kuja watu wa baba, ingieni hapa mtetee baba. Usisikie vibaya, tutakugombeza.
Kuja kama we ni mwanaume, unikutane na mimi hapa. Ukikuja ukuje na the fact. Tukusikuja hapo ati baba ndio. This is the real guy, no?
Tuko hapa watu wa baba, ingieni kwa niwaekee link. Watu wa baba waingie hapa. Vita ni vikali. Ayaga ameleta violence hapa.
Peane link wakuje.
Agwambo terengenyi.
Sianga kwa KK angekuwa hapa. KK yako wapi? Leo tungechapa uje.
Wapi captain? Captain ako wapi? Captain ndio natafuta. Captain ako. Wacha nijaribu kumpigia captain. Sijui amepotea, sijui alishikwa na Faruk. Najua watu wanatafutanga watu bana. But na wewe ninio yako imeanza kuninio kueko Melchizedek. But yeah, ingieni hapa. Please tell me about Raila's performance today. We nani? Umefungua device ingine. For all of you who might agree or disagree, ingieni, tell me. Ayaga merudi na violence. Wacha tusikie hiyo violence yake. Ayaga, ulikuwa unasema nini? Hebu zungumza tusikie. Ayaga, ulikuwa unasema nini? Hebu zungumza tusikie.
Can you hear me? Ama kuna toka shida?
Saini ni tafadhali kidogo.
Okay, ni network iko na I think kuna stima iko dim kidogo. See, you know, let me tell my brother. I wish Mishak you should walk, just get healed. Upona to 2022 election, but we don't go back there. The kids that were born on that day, they are now 3 years old. They are going for PP1. If you still have those pains in your heart, talking like the way you are talking, it is immature. Just walk. People are preparing for 2032. If you are still in 2022, That backwards thinking and hatred na uchungu kwa roho itakupoteza mbali sana. So what I'm telling you is one, I don't support me myself with all platform nimekuwa sijawahi support Ruto. The revolution is from the way it is to Juani kwa mtembei huko. I have never supported even a single day. But if Kenyans choose Ruto as their president, I will help. Nitawasaidia kupenda. My friend, I cannot fight. I cannot fight for Ruto. I cannot go beat my kids outside.
Wacha nikuulize swali. So why did Raila go to maandamano after the Supreme Court said that he lost the election? Why did he tell people to go to maandamano at that time?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad for you. Know what I like about you? You are
I
honest.
never supported that maandamano. I never supported that maandamano.
Okay, I respect that. You are honest. I like that. I like that. That's why I'm saying. Raila is a conman because he only wants to renew the constitution once Ruto amemndosia ondosone nini hapo hiyo AU na amempatia pesa kidogo. Sasa ndio kubali. Unaona?
Hiyo ni matusi kwa baba. Utapigwa mawe hii Nairobi wewe. Haya.
Mimi niko Nyalenda.
Usinitafute kama security
Mimi niko Nyalenda hapo karibu na Pan-Africanism primary, kuja mnitafute. Hakuna mtu ananipiga hapo.
Kenya revolution. Let us just be sincere. You know, I don't support Ruto. Me myself, I can't subscribe myself into Ruto's Uhuru Kenyatta's kind of politics. You know me from way back. I don't do that politics. I have been in Raila's circle all along. Last year, I think I made a contribution in one of these online things. And I disagree with my fellow Luos who are supporting Mandamano like Meshach. I told them, this Mandamano, Raila should look away of reaching out to Ruto. He should not wait for other kids to die. People like Meshach told me, not even Meshach, people like him insisted that Mandamano is the only way. Now people have died. They are not speaking about the people who have died. They are speaking about the conmanning of Raila Odinga. What they should demand now, when they were supporting those violence that killed those people, they should actually go back to ensure that those families are compensated. That is number one. Even the Gen Z revolution, I support it up to a moment there was a breakthrough in parliament. After parliament, I resist. I said, it is enough. We have teach this president a lesson. If he doesn't change, we live to fight another day. Some people supported this nonsense of going to the street. People are killed, people are abducted, and they are coming to online here to lament how Ruto must go. Ruto is killing small kids. My friend, don't send somebody's kid to die for you. And after he's dead, you don't even fight for him. The other day, the case of this young guy who was buried in Machakos here, the first man who was killed as a Gen Z, the case was being issued. People are trolling Sijui who. I don't know what happened. They are distracting people instead of getting justice for that young man.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Ask me a question.
Okay. You said that we supported movement of Mandamano that made people to be killed, right?
Exactly, because that is what you believe on, and that is what you are propagating here.
I'm coming. Just calm down, Baba. Calm down. Calm down. We are not fighting. We are just correcting something that you also see. You are just only blind. Just calm down and listen my question.
Okay.
Between the Wananchi and Serikali, who was killing who?
The government was killing those young people.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So whom to blame? The people who are Mandamano to get their own right, or the watu ambao wanaua watu? Who is supposed to
both of them. both of them should carry the burden because Maandamano is enshrined in the Kenyan Constitution.
I'm still question. I have some alone. I have a question.
Then you should summarize your question. You don't read our own paragraph as a question.
We are here to debate. We are not here to brag or whatever. Just listen. You know what I've realized with you is one. You said that we should not do anything like that. Sorry, I had a call. Let me pick that call, then I'm coming back.
Okay, thank you very much.
So anyway, the reason why, again, Ayaga, I know you're a diehard Baba fan, which is fine. That is your right. But the reason why most Kenyans do not support him because he has betrayed them in a lot of ways, many times. He tells them to go to Maandamano, then they get killed. He doesn't even ask for them to be reimbursed, for their families to reimbursed. He leaves them and anawacha kwa mataa na ndio huyo ameenda AU. So do you expect these people to again say, oh, we are wishing Baba good in the kwenda AU? Yeah. And he was the one who was telling us that mwaka huu tutaenda tufungue server na tutaleta bei ya renew chini na tulei. You see, you're laughing because you know the kind of tricks Baba is playing. You see,
Kenya Revolution. Let us know the political words. You know, I felt bad for Rigathi Gachagua when he was being penalized for using the word like company. Those are idle talks, political idle talks. Those words, you should not carry them in your heart. That's how politicians work and behave.
Kenya Revolution, I'm back. Give me time.
Melchizedek was asking questions. Okay, go ahead.
Eric.
Yeah.
I know you are in Kenya right now as we speak. Right?
Exactly.
Are you happy with what is taking place in Kenya? Just be sincerely. Are you happy with the economy? Are you happy with the killing?
Mishak, I'm not happy, and that's why I have never supported the handshake between William Ruto and Raila Odinga.
I ask you a question, you should ask, oh, you are not happy. Wait, another one is coming.
My friend, you don't ask me several questions. You just give me one by one, I answer you. I will forget. My head is not a memory card, my friend.
Bro, you know,
continue.
Since I was born, I've never seen what is taking place in Kenya as we speak because of what we are seeing right now. You know, when things are not good, there is, even you yourself, you can change your ways of doing things. Even at your home, if something is not going well, you should not go with the slogan that you used to use since you were born when things are not going well. So, when you are talking about this, the so-called, I was supporting Raila. I've never voted, and I don't want to vote because the vote, it will not help me right now because of what is taking place. First, the reason why I'm saying that is when we are voting to select those who can help our country to be like other countries. But it comes out clearly that those who were selected to help Kenya, they are there to kunyanyasa wananchi with the reason. Kama tax wameleta juu, hiyo ni kunyanyasa wananchi. Kama kuchukua vitu, sasa ng'ombe yako ikidungwa sindano ambayo wewe hujui, hiyo ni ng'ombe yako ulinunua na pesa yako. imedungwa sindano kwamba imeanyizwa kwamba kuna flu. Hiyo flu ng'ombe yako haina flu. Unajua, umeenda shule unajua vizuri hii ng'ombe ni mgonjwa ama sio mgonjwa. I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying that. So don't fight me about that because I know you are supporting that side. You are in a government. You are feeling nice. That's why this is taking place. So each and everything that is taking place in Kenya, when you are sincerely speaking, uko na nini nzuri, you have observation, unaona vizuri, you have akili timamu, unaona vizuri, you could have just come up and say that what is the issue, why all people are against this, why am I only person seeing good thing of this man? But you are not doing this. You only come here saying that there is no need, we are waiting 3032. Kama ungesema hivyo karibu na mtu, my brother, right now people are very angry about this. So just saying it here, but don't say it publicly. I'm just advising you. Because you don't know what people are passing through. So if you're saying that we are waiting 3032 because Baba is going for AU to come again and do their mascara ambayo wanafanya, I'm very sorry, my friend, to say this. I'm not a politician, neither will never be a politician, but the only thing that you have to know, whether you are old, whether you are young, whether you are whatever, we are facing the same problem that these people, the so-called Raila, Ruto, and Kenyatta, brought to us. And this is the fact. If you don't want to accept, fine, continue supporting them.
Let me answer you, my brother. I feel your pain. You say you have never voted and you will not vote, so I'm sorry for you. So let me teach you, because at least I have voted like two, 3 times. I started in 2013. So Ngoja, wait, relax. I was quiet. Now let me teach others. Immediately you have voted. Immediately umepiga kura na imehesabiwa na matokeo imetangazwa, hiyo kitu inaisha hapo. So now that is the first thing nafundisha hawa wate ambao hawajai piga kura, na these are the Gen Z who want a change in 2027 and they will not vote. Yes, they are declaring they will not vote. My friend, I'm one of them. Bad governments are voted by good citizens who do not vote. Bad governments are voted by the good citizens who do not vote. So if you, number one, you don't vote in a democratic process, you don't complain for the results. Whatever the results come, you should be happy with it. When it comes a matter of this government, I myself, Eric Kayada, I cannot support Ruto in any other way. I'm not in government and I will never be one. I don't support Ruto and I will never even move close to where people support Ruto. Even 2022 was a political mistake that this country did. And I think sometimes, because I'm also a Christian, you know, God, if you go against God, sometimes God gives you a bad leader as a punishment. It is written in the Bible. Yeah. So I think this is the leadership that God has given us for punishment to make us reason and know who to vote and how to vote properly. So we need a vote education. We need a voter education. So hii maneno ya you want me to have political emotions, Mandago alisema weka kwa roho. Hiyo kitu ikiisha August, by August inakwanga second Tuesday of August. In fact, the following week, final cheer. What happens, because there will be handshakes. The politics, there is no enmity. Our friendship, what is there in politics, my brother, is always betrayal. Two constant factors is betrayal and interest. If the interest of those two leaders have emerged that Raila and Ruto is working, me as Eric Kayada, I don't support it, because anything to do with William Ruto, I'm not there. So if you talk to me, I am just supporting Raila as a lone ranger who is representing Kenya. I love my country. I can't hate my country. This is the only country I have. I am not a dual citizenship like some of us. They can run to other countries. If I don't love Kenya, where should I love? Anybody who is going out there to represent Kenya, even in football, even in athletics, even in AU, even in anything, even UN. If there is a Kenya who is running and is a front runner, I will support him, regardless of from down here which political divide it comes from. Now that one I am very clear. When it comes to Kasongo, I am not there. And I cannot support Kasongo because I know what people are going through. I'm a Kenyan. I am in this country. After Sai power is dim, you are laughing at me because of my net is buffing. It is power is dim because there is bad leadership in this country that is causing all these things.
If you love Kenya, change your ways and stop supporting these comments. Thank you.
I love Kenya. I have changed my way, and I'm telling you, in 2027, you should also change your mind and vote a good leadership. You don't need that. You will not vote, and after that, you are coming here to tell me how not to support a Conman. You come and support the person who is not a Conman and ensure that you are voted for him. Hiyo tuelewane hapa. Sahi utapiga kura.
Utapiga kura. Mimi nasema hivi. I wish what you are saying you will tell Conman from Opoda. This Conman from Opoda, when he loses the elections, every time he goes to Mandamano. That is what we are saying. People die, you see him with Ruto. Oh, my brother. But before he was saying Ruto ni mwizi, ananyakua mshamba hapa, ananyakua huko, anasijui nini, while people are dying. That is why we cannot support this Conman, this welder from Opoda. In fact, he was lying, he was an engineer. Have you seen his engineering degree? He doesn't have engineering degree. He's a liar. He's a welder from
I think everybody should post their education credential or academic credential. Is when you ask me where the one of Raila is.
We are not running for AU. Why should we post ours? We are not running for AU. If you are running for AU, it requires you have master's degree at least or postgraduate. Nani hana hata degree? Alidanganya tiamenda Germany.
Order. Eddie.
Yes, Baba.
The guy say he's an engineer by professional. He is an engineer of mechanical. Ndio. Alisomea shule gani? Do you know? Utuambie. Alisoma shule gani?
But my brother, I think that the panel in AU, for you to qualify as a candidate, you must have all those requirements. So you can't sit here, maybe somewhere in Nairobi here.
They haven't checked.
Something that the AU people, the panel, has my friend, let us stop these political emotions. Hizi political emotion haita kupeleka mahali, utakufa. In fact, utapata depression. Wewe na kuona. What will help you? Stop the political emotions. You will die very young man.
Kwani ni kesho? Wacha nikwambie ni Kijaluo. Uwoyo kutoka Taukatanumu. Kama ulikuwa umesoma literature, ina the river between kulikuwa na kitu kulikuwa inaitwa uwoyo kutoka Taukatanumu. So don't tell us is a whatever.
But I think, Misha, when that guy is running for a seat that we Kenya, we are not even interested in that seat. At least we need to support him. My brother. Then when you know nimekuleta hapa kwa local politics.
Okay. It's better now. Endelea Ayaga. Ulikuwa unafanya nini?
I think sasa umenileta kwa local politics. Let us do local politics minus Raila AU nonsense. Let us do local politics.
Wacha nicheze video hapa. Wacha nicheze video kabla.
Ngoja kwanza nimwambie.
Okay.
Before ucheze hiyo video. Okay. Najua ulisoma mbele yangu. But I want to give you something. Enda usome The River Between. Kuna place imeandikwa can Atele lead the head. Then utasoma hiyo paragraph. You will understand the meaning of that. Thank you. Cheza the video.
Okay,
kama ulisoma River Between tulisoma na wewe.
Tulisoma na wewe basi, wacha kuporoka hapa wewe ni mtu kubwa. Wewe ni mtu mdogo kama mimi. Waachia wakina waongee. Ndio siasa kuchukulia. Acha bwana. Acha hizo zako.
Okay, sawa. Wacha niwapelekee ninio. Niwawekee hii video. Niliona alikuwa anacheza. It's very interesting. Kuna mtu ambaye anaitwa Makoure aliingia ODM, that terrorist organization. Wacha niwaonyeshe sasa. There was a very interesting news. Sijui mliona hii asubuhi. Hold on.
Article 2.3 of the Inject Party Constitution. Number 1 is to fight corruption. Number 2 is economic transformation. Number 3 is civic empowerment. Number 4 institutional reform. Number 5 environmental sustainability. Number 6 is justice.
But those are points.
Those are ideologies of our party.
Now, textbook has that.
They might have it in writing. We have it at heart. My Secretary General at Inject Party is a Maasai. It's called Solonka Parel.
Was he or was he not your class?
The person who is in charge. Look, Orengo was with Raila.
That's what we are saying. What
is wrong with working with my classmate?
Yes, then what is wrong?
If I trust him enough to work with him, it's exceptional. It's beautiful. How many classmates are working together?
We don't have a problem with you working.
The Secretary
General. But you blaming other people for doing the exact thing you're doing? Is that what we are?
I've not blamed Raila for working with his classmates.
Yes. No.
I'm blaming him for taking advantage of the Gen Z demonstration, riding on the blood of the youth who have died to benefit himself economically and have positions in government.
You know, you've taken this thing where you want to legitimize your part of the struggle with blood. That's why you would lead people against the popular temper. For example, you took your people to Narok where only you were not hurt, but your teammates were hurt. So you want to legitimize your struggle thinking it deserves blood. And we keep on telling you that if you're trying to transform
the only way I become part of my
if you're trying to transform it, no, you're not listening.
Come on,
if you want to truly transform this country, you have to be absolutely honest in your dealings, because the thing which you're doing is trying to, and there's this narrative that you've been trying to see where you're driving sympathy or you're driving, I do not have a problem with you changing campaign financing. I do not have a problem with you unearthing projects. What I have a problem with is you trying to pull certain stunts to try and whip up emotion, because the new thing which you're trying to drive and which even your founding members...
Let me agree with you.
Yes, even your founding members...
If you have a part of this...
Can we also be part and parcel of this conversation?
Haya, unaona hata Morara alisema ati Raila and ride on other people's blood. Karibu keke. So hey, leo ni moto. Moto imewaka leo. Raila Conman tringenye mwenyewe ayatondo poda chuor eda kidikibudi. Ngamoto gwonyre. Hey, tumeingia sasa hapa.
Mimi nataka kutoka kidogo. Wacha nimalize.
Haya.
Niko na kazi.
Maliza.
Wacha nimalize alafu nilikuwa nasema kitu before uwenye hiyo kitu. Erika amesema amesoma na mimi. Si ndio? Ama bado kama alisoma The River Between, which means tulikuwa na yeye kwa nini moja. Ambayo tunafaa tufikirie kama youths. Hatufai tufikirie kama wale ambao walipita, ambayo waoni kitu ambayo ilifanyika. Na maisha ambayo wazazi wetu na wale wengine walipitia. Sasa hii tungefaa tufikirie ni nini tunafaa tufanye kama youths wa Kenya ili tusaidiane to change mashida yenye tuko nayo. That's the first thing. The second thing, kama watu wengine wametokelezea kama wakina Kasmuel wakina Marara, wale ambayo washaingia wakakula pesa pale ndani, tunafaa tutengane nao kabisa na tujue ya kwamba what is the solution ambayo tukiamua kama sisi ambao tunataka kuleta mabadiliko ni nini tunafaa tufanye. Unaona, tusikue tukisema ya kwamba ati tunataka maarifa kutoka wale ambao walishakuwa leaders, but in which extent? Unaona, we have to borrow the ideas, but hiyo idea yenye tuna borrow, how will we use it so that we can fix the problem that we are facing kama wananchi? So we don't need to support these people, but tunafaa tufikirie ni nini tunafaa tufanye ili tusaidiane kama wale ambayo wanataka watoto wako pia wakuwe wazuri, wasikie mzuri vile tutasikia hivi karibuni 2027 ikikuja. But ukikuja tunasema ya kwamba tungoje mpaka 2032 ama nini, unajua kuna wale ambao washaumia na kuna wale ambao wako na hiyo uchungu sana. Sasa ukikuja ukamwambia hivyo ni kama unatia chumvi kwa kitu ambayo tayari inafanyika na inaendelea. So we need to change and we need to think beyond the box. Let us not think about inside the box only, that these are the only people that can lead. We even asked, sisi tunaweza kuwa leaders. In which way? Tukifuata maagizo na tufanye vile watu wengine wa nchi nyingine wanafanya. Sija ku nini? Ukapuonji in the Luo, quotes, ukapuonji. But you have to be wise. Thank you.
Asante. Ayaga maoni yako ya mwisho, nifunge show for the first session, itarudi baadaye.
Okay. Thank you very much. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me I'm very happy because nimerudisha Meshak kwa laini. Unajua ile njia alikuwa anaenda na emotion ingemtupa ndani. You know, kama Meshak umesoma na mimi, yes, tumesoma River Between. I remember 2 regions laid side by side. I remember that book very well, from chapter 1 to chapter number 26. I think after that thing, the paragraph you are quoting is around in chapter 18, if I'm not wrong. Maybe nimesahau 2011. So it is very wrong that maybe nilikuacha na 1 year or tulifanya the same time and you have never voted. That is a very disappointment. You are the people who have been bringing back this country. You can't only use the words. Sometimes you need to use action by just going out and voting. That is very low on you, my brother. That is very wrong. That's why you are the people who have been. In fact, you know, if you don't vote, your vote use your votes. Tunaibiwa alafu inawekwa inakuwa kiongozi inchi. Mkora inakuwa MP wa inchi. Mkora inakuwa MCA wa inchi. This political establishment veniko sahi. It is wrong. From MCA to the president. It is rot to the core. I thank God whatever happened in South Korea did not happen here in Kenya, because at least South Koreans, they have MPs who can stand with the people. For us, we have Kank here who are following Ruto like Mother Queen, the Queen Bee, where Ruto is, they praise him, they do whatever they want to him. I want Ruto to go. I am the first man. I can be the first man even to head a mandamano to go. But what I'm saying now, I want a peaceful way of removing Ruto. I don't want a violent way where tomorrow I will be saying a young man has died. Me personally, there is a young man called Eric Kiano. That is my personal friend. I attended his funeral in Kitui. I don't know those counties. It is very painful seeing my friend, somebody I know, younger than me, being shot by just having a flag and a phone in his hand. I don't believe in a violent way of removing Ruto. That's why I'm telling you, we young people, we need to tell a friend, to tell Red, let us have votes. Let us wait for this man and humiliate him in a way that he will not even rig this election. Let us humiliate him in an electoral process. I'm not an anarchist. I cannot support where we use violence to achieve. Yes, we can use violence to remove Ruto. And then when somebody is dead, what surely some are abducted, like I'm seeing a comment here. Some are abducted, and then we remove him. Why should we use a blood and live on a white revolution where we can have a peaceful, democratic way to humiliate not only William Ruto, the political establishment, even the MPs who passed the bill, who the other day stood with Adani. But when Adani is cancelled, they cheered their puppet president, William Ruto. I believe in that way. And if we can ensure that we as youth, we actively involve in politics, we will change this country once and for all. Most of governor, 90% should not come back, even from Siaya, where I come from. Orengo is doing nothing. Most even here in Nairobi is doing nothing. Why should we be obsessed with Kasu? We should just say the political establishment in this country, as we speak now, 90% should go home. Then we have a fresh start as young Kenyans, as people who the future of this country is in our hands. Thank you very much. I enjoy kudebate na wewe. Unajua Kenya Revolution unajua moto hii moto tunakuanga nayo, so I think next time ukikutana na mimi ujuage tu mimi sauti yangu haipandi mzuri, lakini sikunywi pombe.
I've enjoyed your Ninio debate. Ayaga, make sure you subscribe and you come here often. I like your view. Uko na passion. I like the passion. Yes, kulikuwa nasema nini? Yes.
Nilikuwa na smell hiyo kitu kwamba huyu jamaa anatoka nini. Nilikuwa nataka kusema kama hako, lakini ametoka. I was smelling that smelling rat. Huyu jamaa anatoka kwa kina Orengo. The way he was talking. Nilikuwa nataka kumwambia lakini ametoka. Anyway, odhigi kue. Kata piny ruoth polo bende manyo kang'enge.
Atarudi. Haya, mimi nafunga show ya the first. Darudi baadaye maybe in the evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we've watched Raila debate. Like I said, you can get my review on the first hour and the first of the debate. I think he was okay. There was nothing really much, but the Djibouti candidate stood out. He seemed knowledgeable. He seemed confident. He was speaking in different languages. He was answering questions, directly. So I think the winner of this debate was definitely the Djibouti guy. And I'm not being biased. I'm just being real. Even though, yes, I do have bias, in favor of the Djibouti guy. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, and do all the good stuff. I'll be back later, maybe in 3 hours, so we can have the evening session. If I'm not, you'll get me here tomorrow next time. But subscribe so you can always find me when I come in. Turn on the notification button, okay? And like the video. Like the video. It helps. It goes to the algorithm and people know about this channel where we can talk about anything from Raila to Ruto to Uhuru to everything that goes in between. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. Everybody else. Laban Misiani, Chief Negus, Pritpal Kaur, Gypsy Corner, KK, Yusuf, who was here too. Everybody here who watched the Ninio with me. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys later. And peace and blessings. I'll see you later. I'm out.